You're standing on the banks of the Nile, and everything smells slightly of mud and something faintly sweet, like papyrus left too long in the sun. The sky above you is enormous, a blanket of pale gold unrolling into pale blue. Somewhere in the distance, a cow sneezes. Welcome to ancient Egypt, 1400 BCE. Give or take a pharaoh or two. You are alive for now, though that won't always be the case. Hence today's theme, the afterlife. Yes, we're spending tonight pondering the long and winding bureaucratic hallway that is the Egyptian idea of life after death. Spoiler, it involves more paperwork than you'd expect and fewer demons than modern horror films would suggest. But don't worry. For the moment, you're merely a humble villager, sandals dusty from the walk here, your linen tunic clinging just slightly in the heat. You probably won't make it through this day. Narratively speaking, of course, because somewhere between the embalming process and the weighing of your heart, you'll likely drift off to sleep. That's okay. That's the plan. Before we begin, consider gently liking this video, maybe even subscribing. No pressure. It's not mandatory to enter the afterlife, but it might make your current one more entertaining. And if you feel so inclined, comment below with your location and the time where you are. It's always comforting to know someone in Iceland is falling asleep alongside someone in Jakarta. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You wake up before the sun, as usual. Life in your mud brick house begins early. You rub your eyes and listen. The cluck of chickens, the splash of someone fetching water from a nearby canal, and the gentle groan of your joints. You're not old, not yet, but you've been hauling baskets of barley long enough to respect the ache. You eat a simple breakfast, flatbread, perhaps with a smear of goat cheese if you're lucky. No utensils, no chairs. You squat on your haunches like everyone else, because back support is for statues and gods. You glance at your neighbor and nod. No words, just the mutual understanding of people who've already seen the sunrise too many times and still have another 1,000 to go. Today, though, your thoughts are heavier. It's the day of offerings for the dead. The temple of Osiris will be busy. Priests will chant, and families will carry baskets of figs and linen to tombs, hoping to please ancestors who, even in death, still cast long shadows over the living. The Egyptians believed the afterlife mirrored this life, just better. The food doesn't run out, your knees don't ache, and your boss, if you even have one, is probably a distant cousin who just wants to farm wheat forever. But first, you have to get there, and that, as it turns out, is a bit of a process. Historians still debate whether the average Egyptian truly understood the full complexity of the Book of the Dead, or whether that was just something priests talked about while everyone else nodded politely and tried not to look confused. You pass a scribal apprentice, scribbling on a potsherd with black ink. His teacher stands nearby, arms crossed. They're copying spells, specific lines meant to guide souls through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. One of them includes a surprisingly specific command to avoid snakes with legs, which is the kind of thing that raises more questions than answers. You continue walking, sandals crunching softly on gravel. The sun rises behind you, painting the ground ochre. A cat darts past, a good omen, unless it hisses, in which case you should probably turn around and call in sick to the afterlife. Ahead, the temple glows with incense smoke and low chanting. You're not entering yet, just watching, observing, smelling the myrrh, and noticing the way the walls shimmer, faintly from the heat. It's a long road from this moment to eternity, but tonight we walk it slowly. Later that afternoon, the air becomes a thick and tangible thing. The Nile, glinting lazily in the distance, seems to mock you with its cool indifference. Your shirt clings again, this time with the sour dampness of labor, and even the palm trees look bored. You make your way to the family tomb, not a grand monument, but a modest structure tucked into the edge of the necropolis, just enough stone to say, "We tried." A place where the dead can rest and the living can say, "Yes, Great Uncle Hotep is still very much remembered. Please don't curse our harvest." Inside, the air is cooler, dustier. You kneel before the offering table and set down your basket. Dried dates, beer in a clay jug, and a folded linen strip that took 3 days to weave. You mutter something about hoping he's enjoying the afterlife, And also maybe he could stop haunting your dreams. Just a thought. You light a bit of incense. It sputters. The smoke curls toward the painted ceiling, where a depiction of the sky goddess nut arches protectively over the world. You wonder if she ever gets tired of bending like that. Outside, the wind picks up. Sand hisses softly along the stone path, like the whisper of 1,000 tiny secrets. You pause to remember what the priest said last year, that the afterlife is not a place, but a condition, like being asleep, but forever, or being stuck at a party where everyone is immortal and the wine is metaphorical. Your cousin joins you. She's brought more beer and an amulet shaped like an ankh. You don't know if it works, but it looks expensive, which is almost the same thing. Together, you talk about death the way people always do, cautiously, sideways, as if it might overhear you. You laugh about your uncle's terrible jokes and remember how he used to insist his donkey could understand complex instructions. It couldn't. One major belief around you is this: before entering the field of reeds, the idyllic paradise awaiting the righteous, you must pass through the hall of two truths. That's where your heart is weighed against a feather, a literal feather. Lightness means you lived well. Heaviness, well, that's when a crocodile-lion-hippo hybrid named Dammit eats your heart, and you cease to exist. No pressure. And here's the fun twist. Egyptians thought your heart recorded everything. Every lie, every kindness, every time you said you'd help with irrigation, and then mysteriously developed a limp. You couldn't cheat it. Unless, of course, you packed a backup heart scarab amulet with a handy spell to keep your heart quiet during judgment. Essentially, the original I Plead the Fifth. You leave the tomb and begin your walk back. The light is softer now, gold tilting toward amber. You pass a boy playing a flute carved from bone. It's slightly out of tune, but charming. A goat follows him, inexplicably. Near the market, a woman sells miniature statues of gods, wooden, clay, and occasionally wax. You spot a particularly smug-looking Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. You buy it, though you suspect he knows something you don't. Thoth always does. Historians still debate whether commoners truly expected to reach the field of reeds, or if they saw it more as a noble aspiration, like saying you'll clean out the granary someday. As the sun sets, the temple bells toll. A final ritual begins, the evening purification of the statue of Osiris. The priest, in a leopard skin robe, don't ask, chants something soothing and ancient. The words flow like river water, meaningless to you, but heavy with age. You watch from afar, your thoughts drifting. You imagine your heart, featherlight and silent, floating just behind your ribs. You imagine fields of grain that never wither. You imagine rest, not the kind that ends with a rooster's crow, but the long, soft, endless kind. And for a moment, you are ready. The next morning arrives on the soles of sandals and the backs of donkeys. You wait not because of any alarm. Those haven't been invented yet, but because the neighbor's child is already screaming about dates and someone has dropped a pot outside your window. Again, the sky is milky, not quite sunlit, not quite shadowed, and the first breath you draw smells like warm earth and old bread. You sit up slowly, your back crackling in protest, and stretch until your arms feel like they belong to someone else, someone stronger, perhaps a minor deity with good posture. Today, you're going to visit a tomb maker. Not because you're dying, not yet, but because your cousin's husband is preparing for the great journey, as everyone likes to call it, as if he's going on a cruise and not about to be wrapped in resin-soaked linen and stuffed into a stone box. You wrap yourself in a fresh linen tunic, still slightly damp from yesterday's wash, and yes, it smells faintly of goat, and head toward the artisan's quarter. Along the way, you pass by women grinding barley at low stone querns. The rhythmic scraping is oddly soothing, like the ancient version of a rain app. Someone waves to you, a potter named Jehudi with a crooked tooth and an even more crooked sense of humor. He's shaping a small bowl, his fingers caked in gray river clay. He looks up and says, "Back again? Planning ahead or just admiring your future furniture?" You smile, just making sure they don't paint me with a double chin. He cackles and returns to his work. By the time you arrive at the tombmaker's studio, the sun is fully awake. It peers over the mud brick rooftops like a nosy neighbor. The tomb maker, an older man named Setka, greets you without looking up. He's carving a scene into a slab of limestone. Two figures presenting offerings to a towering Osiris. One of the figures looks suspiciously like Setka himself. Vanity, you ask. Insurance, he replies. If I make it into the tomb art, maybe Osiris will recognize me. It's as good a theory as any. Setka shows you several options for wall carvings. One scene features the deceased joyfully harvesting grain, smiling broadly as if farming were a leisure activity. Another shows him boating along the Nile, surrounded by lotus flowers and servants fanning him with improbable palm leaves. Too much, Setka asks. Maybe tone down the number of ducks, you say. He wasn't that popular. Egyptian tomb art was not about accuracy. It was about intention, to depict your soul's ideal future, not your slightly underwhelming past. So even if the deceased hated fishing, he might still be painted catching tilapia with heroic enthusiasm. You settle on a modest array, fields of wheat, a banquet scene, and of course, the weighing of the heart. Can't skip that. It's the main event. Setka nods, approving. We'll leave a space open near the door for the family to write his name again each year, he says. That way his Ka doesn't get lonely. Ah yes, the Ka. One of the several confusingly specific aspects of the Egyptian soul. There's the Ka, the life force. The Ba, personality, with a delightful habit of flying around in bird form. The Ak, the transformed, luminous spirit. And a few other spectral subdivisions that would baffle even the most seasoned HR department. The Ka needed food. Real food. Which meant offerings had to be placed at the tomb regularly. Or your spirit might get peckish. Starving in the afterlife wasn't just uncomfortable, it was embarrassing. You'd have to beg off other people's altars like a celestial freeloader. Historians still debate how literally Egyptians believed in the Ka consuming food. Some suggest the food's essence was what mattered. Others point to the very real piles of moldy bread found in sealed tombs. Perhaps they just weren't willing to risk it. After finalizing the tomb design, Setka shows you a drawer full of Shabti dolls. These tiny figures, each carved with tiny farming tools, are meant to serve the dead in the afterlife. You pick one up. It has a crooked smile and stubby arms. It's cute, you say. It's obedient, Setka says. Unlike my nephew. The dolls were meant to answer on your behalf if the gods demanded labor. A magical loophole. You imagine them springing to life in a golden field, digging trenches while you recline beneath a date palm, sipping beer made of sunlight and nostalgia. As you leave Setka's studio, the air smells of dust and wet limestone. A group of young boys runs past, chasing each other with palm fronds. One of them wears a makeshift headdress of reeds, pretending to be Anubis. His bark is enthusiastic but anatomically questionable. You decide to stop by the local market before returning home. The sun hangs low now, casting long shadows that make the alleyways seem deeper than they are. A vendor calls out, offering lotus-scented oil. Another holds up a basket of dried figs, already swarming with sleepy flies. In a corner, an old woman sits cross-legged behind a table of amulets. You recognize the familiar shapes, ankhs, scarabs, eyes of Horus, but one, shaped like a frog, is unfamiliar. It's for safe rebirth, she explains. Rebirth into what? You ask. She shrugs. Hopefully something with better knees. You buy it anyway. As the sky deepens into violet and the first stars appear, tiny pinholes in the velvet dome of night, you make your way home. Your path takes you past the temple again. Tonight, the priests are quieter. A single chant drifts from within, as steady as breath. You pause. For a moment, everything feels suspended. The afterlife, the present life, the lives before and after this one, all layered like delicate papyrus pages. You remember the food offerings you left yesterday. You wonder if they've already crumbled, or if, in some other world, your uncle is feasting under a tree that never drops its fruit, with a heart that never grows heavy, and a smile that never fades. You smile too, and walk on into the soft hush of night. The night is warm, but not unkind. It wraps around you like a thick linen blanket. Coarse, yes, but familiar. You lie awake for a while, staring up at the low ceiling of your home. tracing the familiar cracks and discolorations that look a little like boats and a little like birds, depending on your mood. In the quiet, the sounds of the village continue their slow course. The rustle of palm fronds against mud brick, a sleepy dog shuffling through sand, and the low croon of someone singing to a fussy baby. You shift on your mat, folding your hands behind your head, wondering, not for the first time, what it really feels like to die. Not in the frightening way, not in the dramatic sense of soldiers and poison and collapsing like a tragic character in some grand epic. Just the ordinary kind. The kind that slips in like dusk, steady and inevitable. The kind that Egyptians prepared for their whole lives. Tomorrow, you've been told, the embalmer's house will open for a new preparation. Your cousin's husband, let's call him Nebaman, because everyone's cousin has a Nebaman, has indeed passed on, and now the real journey begins. Not the soul's journey, mind you, but the long, smelly, bureaucratic process of turning a corpse into something sacred. You drift off for a bit, wake again when a breeze nudges the curtain, and finally, when the rooster forgets that no one actually likes him, you rise. There's something ceremonial about washing your face with water scooped from a painted pot. You lean over the basin, cupping your hands, and the chill of it is sharp, reminding you that you're still very much alive for now. You walk toward the embalmer's enclosure, past the fields of flax, where a girl is scolding her younger brother with the patience of a goddess. He's trying to tie a rope around a cow's horns. The cow looks unimpressed. The house of purification, where the embalmers work, sits apart from the rest of the village. Not out of reverence, necessarily, but out of practicality. Dead bodies smell, even sacred ones. You approach cautiously. There's no sign, but you can tell you're in the right place by the faint aroma of natron, a chalky, salty tang that clings to your nostrils like regret. Inside, the walls are high and whitewashed. The room is long, with the deceased laid out on a stone platform in the center. Nebaman is unrecognizable, his features already stiffened, smoothed, and oddly serene. Around him, the embalmers move slowly, deliberately, their hands steady as river reeds. The chief embalmer wears a jackal-headed mask representing Anubis, god of mummification. It's ceremonial, of course. He doesn't think he's Anubis, but you never really know with priests. Would you like to observe? One of the assistants asks you. He's young, probably not much older than you, and has the kind of voice that suggests he's said this exact phrase many, many times. You nod. First comes the cleansing. The body is washed with palm wine and Nile water. You try not to stare, but it's difficult not to. There's something disturbingly peaceful about the ritual, as if this isn't a body, but a beloved artifact being restored. Then comes the removal of organs. That part, mercifully, is done behind a screen. You hear the squish of metal and flesh and imagine, incorrectly and unwillingly, what it looks like. The brain, you've been told, is extracted through the nose with a hooked rod. It sounds like something out of a nightmare, but to Egyptians, the brain was just filler. It had no sacred importance. The heart, though, that was everything. We leave the heart in, if we can, the assistant murmurs, as if reading your mind. Unless it's damaged, then we substitute with a stone scarab. How do you know if it's damaged? You ask. He shrugs. Depends who you ask. Historians still debate whether embalmers truly believed in the symbolic weight of each organ, or if these steps were followed out of pure ritual tradition, like how modern people send greeting cards even when they don't mean them. The removed organs will be packed in canopic jars, each guarded by a specific deity. There's Imsidi for the liver, Hapi for the lungs, Duamutef for the stomach, and Kabesanuf for the intestines. You've seen the jars before, always carved with animal or human heads, always a little eerie. You wonder if the gods ever get tired of watching over guts. The body is packed with natron now. It will rest like this for 40 days, slowly drying into something the living can no longer mistake for their own. You step away, leaving the cool shade of the embalmer's chamber for the brightness of day. Outside, the world feels strangely loud. Children laugh. A donkey brays. The sun has no interest in your internal existential crisis. You find yourself wandering without purpose. You pass the granary. where sacks of barley are stacked with the casual symmetry of someone who truly enjoys organizing. A scribe sits nearby, keeping tally on a wax tablet. You wonder what your life looks like from his perspective. Just another line scratched in borrowed ink. As you cross the square, a man stumbles by with a clay jar full of beer, already sloshing. He grins at you, missing a tooth. "Drink now," he says, "while your throat still works." It's not the worst advice. You sit under a fig tree with a few others, some relatives, a woman from the weaving quarter, a man with a limp who tells elaborate lies about having met the pharaoh once. No one believes him, but everyone listens. It's easier that way. Someone pulls out a board for a quick game of Senate, a favorite pastime that's also, conveniently, believed to help the soul move through the afterlife. Each move, each piece, symbolic. Life is a game board. Death is a continuation of play. You in the game. Barely. The man with the limp pretends to pout, then laughs. As the sun begins to lower, stretching long shadows across the courtyard, a priest passes by, murmuring a spell under his breath. His robes are simple, but the air around him feels heavier, as if he carries not just words, but memory. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the breeze touch your skin like a blessing. You think of Nebaman, slowly turning to linen and salt, his spirit hovering somewhere between this world and the next. You think of your own soul, quiet for now, not yet summoned, not yet weighed, and still you wonder, will your heart be light? Will the feather forgive you the things you forgot you did? Or will Amit be waiting, licking her mismatched lips? A fly lands on your hand. You flick it away. Life, you think, is wonderfully ordinary. Death, too. And with that, you rise and head home. The dusk settles like a silk shawl over the village. It doesn't fall suddenly. It glides, easing gently over the roofs, darkening the river to a quiet ribbon, coaxing even the noisiest dogs to silence. You walk home with the sun behind you, your shadow stretching forward like it's trying to get there first. There's dinner tonight, something simple. Lentils, some onions roasted in oil, and a small chunk of dried fish that somehow still manages to smell aggressive. You eat it sitting cross-legged on a mat, using a soft chunk of bread to scoop each bite. Across from you, your younger sister chatters about her loom project, and you nod as if you understand. You don't, but the sounds of her voice are pleasant and familiar, like the creak of a door you never fix because it's part of the house now. You go to bed early, or what counts for early, when your entire life is measured in sunrises and grain cycles. Your mat is stiff, the ceiling unchanged. But tonight, your dreams are not. They come quickly, thick and vivid. You find yourself walking through a reed forest beneath a sky that glows unnaturally gold, the kind of gold that hums softly, like bees inside your ears. You are not alone. A figure waits beside a black river. He's tall, with the head of a jackal and eyes that reflect the stars. Anubis. He doesn't speak, but you feel his question hang in the air like incense. Are you ready? You wait before answering. Morning again. Less poetic this time. A chicken has somehow found its way inside the house, and you shoo it out half-heartedly. You feel oddly rested, oddly prepared, which is ironic, considering what today holds. The temple has announced a public reading of the Book of Coming Forth by Day, what we now call the Book of the Dead. Not exactly a page-turner, but certainly required reading for anyone hoping to die responsibly. You join the crowd outside the Temple of Khnum. The sandstone facade is faded, but dignified. Carvings of gods and sacred symbols cover its sides like the pages of a forgotten journal. A priest stands at the top of the steps, scroll in hand, his voice carrying with trained clarity. No amplification needed. Spell 125, he says. The Declaration of Innocence. The people go quiet. You already know this one. It's a list of things you claim not to have done. A checklist of virtue to present before the gods, usually Osiris, during the weighing of your heart. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not caused anyone to weep. That last one hits you. You glance at your sister beside you. She notices and raises a brow. What now? Nothing. You're thinking about Amit, aren't you? A little. She snorts. You're boring enough to sail right through. The priest continues reading. I have not polluted the Nile. I have not raised my voice. I have not stolen bread. Again, that one gives you pause. You remember, vaguely, a stolen bite from a neighbor's basket when you were 10. Just one. But still, would the heart remember? Would it confess under pressure? Some scholars believe the negative confession wasn't about truth, but aspiration, a ritualized way of saying, "This is who I hope to be." Others argue it was a real, spiritual oath, enforced by cosmic bureaucracy, and others still think it was mostly theater, like writing a CV for the gods. The reading ends. A hush lingers. The crowd begins to disperse, but you stay where you are. The thought of your own heart, small and fleshy and holding years of memory, unsettles you in ways you didn't expect. You walk aimlessly for a while, past the bakery where a boy is pulling loaves from a mud brick oven. The smell is heavenly. You steal a glance at the bread and wonder if you're about to break another rule on the confession list. Eventually, your feet take you to the edge of the cemetery, not to a tomb, but to something older, something forgotten. A ruined mastaba, flat-roofed, crumbling at the edges, long abandoned. The name carved into it has eroded. Only a few symbols remain. A bird, a ripple of water, and a half circle. You trace them with your finger, the stone warm beneath your touch. Someone once rested here. Someone once had offerings and prayers and whispered spells. Now it's just silence. No one to speak the name. And without a name, what is a soul? You remember what Setka told you earlier. If no one says your name, you fade. You sit beside the forgotten tomb and whisper the name you imagine was once here. Something soft and plausible. Maybe Haru, maybe Tia. You say it out loud. You say it again. No one hears you but the wind. After a while, you get up. You walk back toward the village, slower now. The day is warm, and your thoughts feel full. You pass the boy with the flute again. He's still off-key. The goat is still following him. Back at home, your sister has brought out the oil lamp. The flicker of flame is mesmerizing, bouncing off the walls in soft, golden patterns. You sit beside it and feel the quiet settling over your limbs. She looks at you. You've been weird today. I've been thoughtful. Same thing. You both laugh. It's the easy kind, the shared kind, the kind you carry with you when you leave this world. Later, you lie in bed again. This time, when you close your eyes, there's no black river, no Anubis waiting, only the steady rhythm of your breath and the faint smell of oil and linen. You think of the heart again. You imagine it lighter, feather-light. You wake before the sun again, but this time it feels intentional, like your body knew something was waiting for you on the other side of sleep. You sit up slowly. The mat creaks. Your bones creak louder. Outside, the world is not yet awake. Just the low, distant murmur of the Nile, the occasional grunt from a donkey rearranging itself in the dark, and the soft flutter of bats heading home. You rise and stretch. The air is cool for once. You wash your face at the basin, the clay still cool from the night, and dress without thinking. The linen tunic slips over your shoulders, and the fibers are stiff in that particular way that tells you someone tried to fold it neatly and failed halfway through. Today, the priests are opening a sacred scroll, rare one. It's not for the public. It's not even for the scribes. It's for the few, the ones training to speak to the dead. You're not technically invited, but no one said you couldn't loiter nearby. You arrive early at the temple, ducking through the shadows of the columns, their carved capitals still sleeping in blue twilight. The sandstone is cool beneath your feet, and every sound, every step, every cough echoes just slightly, as if the gods are listening. You find a quiet spot behind a small statue of Bes, the dwarf god of protection and household joy. He grins at you, tongue sticking out, as if to say, "You're not supposed to be here, but I won't tell if you don't." You settle behind him. Inside the sanctuary, you can hear the murmurs begin. The priests unroll the scroll with careful reverence. It's stiff from age, the papyrus edges browned like the corners of an old memory. They begin to read. Soft voices, rhythmic like a lullaby with strange, biting syllables. You can't make out every word, but you catch fragments. Let the gates of the west open. Let the soul of the righteous pass unhindered. Let no crocodile seize him. There's a particular beauty to ancient Egyptian ritual, part performance, part belief, part hope dressed in metaphor. You imagine your own soul, walking barefoot through the underworld, past flaming lakes and chattering baboons and doorways guarded by serpents with terrible pronunciation. Somehow you survive. That's the point. The scroll, they say, was written for a woman named Satsabek, a noble who died in childbirth. Her family spared no expense for her burial. She has her own tomb, her own priest, her own spellbook. The scroll includes several custom spells, things not found in the standard Book of the Dead. One of them is about mirrors. May she see her reflection only as light, and not as shadow. You whisper it to yourself. It sounds like poetry. It is poetry. Historians still debate the meaning of that particular line. Was it metaphor? A wish for clarity in the afterlife? Or was it literal? A magical instruction to avoid being trapped in a reflective surface, which some believed could imprison the soul? It's hard to say. Mirrors, after all, always feel slightly suspicious. The scroll continues. Another passage calls on the goddess Nephthys to guide the soul through the place of turning, a concept no one fully understands. Some think it's a crossroads. Others think it's a transformation. One scholar suggested it might refer to the body being turned during mummification, though that theory was mostly mocked at dinner parties. You shift slightly, knees stiff from sitting. One of the junior priests walks past, close enough to see you. He hesitates for a second, then keeps walking, pretending not to notice. Bless him. Eventually, the reading ends. The priest begins to roll the scroll back into its protective tube, careful not to tear the brittle fibers. You linger until the last syllable has faded from the air, then slip out quietly before they remember to kick you out. Outside, the sky is blinding. Morning has arrived without apology. The village is awake, full of clatter and chatter and that low, constant hum of people trying to get through another day. You take a detour to the river. There's something about water in Egypt. It's never just water. It's life. It's the bloodstream of the land. It's the highway, the bath, the grave. You sit on the bank and watch fishermen cast nets into the current. They move without hurry, without wasted motion. A boy nearby throws pebbles at the surface, trying to make them skip. None of them do, but he seems delighted anyway. He offers you one, and you toss it. Yours skips. Once. He gasps, as if you've just summoned a god. Maybe you have. A barge passes by. On it, several workers in white linen sing a song that sounds older than memory. They're transporting grain, probably, or stone, or someone's soul, depending on who you ask. You think about the scroll, about Satsabek, about mirrors and crocodiles, and the gates of the West. You wonder if she made it. You hope she did. You rise and brush the sand from your hands. As you head back to the village, you pass a group of children drawing in the dirt with sticks. They're sketching gods, lopsided figures with animal heads and starburst eyes. One of them draws a bird with a sun for a head. You pause and say, "That's our A, yes?" The child squints up at you. "It's my uncle." You blink. Your uncle is the sun god. She nods seriously. Sometimes. You don't argue. By midday, the heat is heavy and dense, pressing down like an overfed cat. You return home, drink deeply from a clay jar of cool water, and lie down in the shade. You close your eyes, not intending to sleep, but you do. And this time, your dream is different. You are floating. No, gliding. Through a field of stars. They pulse softly, not like fire, but like breath. Around you, other souls drift, their forms made of light and old laughter. You hear a voice, gentle but firm. Speak your name, that you may live again. You open your mouth, but no sound comes. Then you wake, heart pounding, not in fear, but in awe, like you've just remembered something important and immediately forgotten it again. You sit in silence. Outside, a breeze rustles the reeds. You breathe in, slowly. You speak your name aloud, just to be sure. The days begin to fold together, each one a parchment sheet brushed with the same strokes. Baking heat, worn sandals, whispered prayers, the smell of old stone and roasted onions. But you've started to notice more. The way the shadows fall differently in the afternoon, the pattern of worn footprints on the temple floor, the precise moment when the last bird falls silent at dusk. It's as though the veil between life and death is thinned, and you're peering through it, not in fear, but in fascination. You're not alone in this quiet obsession. Your cousin's house has become a gathering place. Every evening, after the work is done and the children have been wrestled into sleep, a few of you gather with whatever food can be spared. You sit on woven mats and talk, not about crops or trade, but about the other world, about Nebeman's journey, about your own. Tonight, the group is larger. Even the village midwife has come, her silver hair braided with faded ribbon. She holds a clay mug of beer with the same grip she used to swaddle babies. Firm, practiced, and slightly exasperated. The conversation wanders, like it always does. Someone brings up the weighing of the heart again. It's not just about being good, says the potter, who always smells of ash and sour grapes. It's about balance. You can't love too much, or eat too much, or sleep too much. Even kindness, if it's done for the wrong reasons, adds weight. Then what hope do we have? Mutters your sister. I told a lie just last week. What about, you ask? She looks sheepish. I said I like your singing. The group erupts with laughter, warm and unhurried. Even the midwife chuckles, sloshing her beer. Later, the conversation shifts. Someone mentions the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, not as a place of punishment, but of passage. A place with doors and guardians and strange rivers, each requiring a name or a spell to pass. The gods are not cruel, you're reminded. They're just organized. Your neighbor, an old man named Buck, speaks up. His voice is thin, but it carries. When I was a boy, I dreamed I walked through the Duat, he says. There were 12 gates, each one made of flame. Each one asked a riddle. What happened, someone asks. I answered wrong on the 6th. A serpent snapped at me, and I woke up with a fever. Did you ever go back? Bach shakes his head. No, but sometimes I hear hissing when I sleep. There's a pause. No one laughs this time. Egyptians didn't fear death in the same way others did. They didn't see it as an end, more like a border crossing. Complicated, sure. Occasionally terrifying, but manageable with the right spells, the right offerings, the right name. And yet, there's always the uncertainty. Historians still debate how literal this belief system was. Did people really expect to walk through fire and meet crocodile-headed deities? Or was it all symbolic? Was the Duat a landscape of the soul, not the sand? But when you sit in the dark like this, surrounded by those who will one day die with you, or before you, the question feels irrelevant. Symbol or not, the journey must be made. Better to be ready. Someone suggests a game of man, a board game shaped like a coiled serpent. You decline. Your head is heavy with thought. Instead, you walk out into the night alone. The moon hangs like a polished alabaster disc, tracing a slow path above the palms. The sand is cool beneath your feet. You pass the bakery, the market stalls, the empty animal pens. Everything familiar. Everything changed. You end up, once again, near the tombs. But this time, you don't go to Nebeman's. You go to the edge, to the place where the desert truly begins, where the breeze tastes different, drier, sharper. There's an old shrine here, more of a ruin really. Just 2 pillars and a lintel with no name. You sit between the stones, and you speak. Not loudly, not formally, just a conversation with whoever might be listening. You talk about your dreams, about the field of reeds, about the scroll and the mirrors, about the bird that follows you each morning, perching on the roof and tilting its head like it knows things. You talk about the weight of your heart and whether regret is heavier than guilt. You talk about Nebeman and whether he misses you, or if, in the afterlife, everything that mattered before dissolves into peace. You don't expect an answer, but the wind shifts. Not cold, not loud, just a gentle sweep against your cheek, like a mother brushing hair from your face. You close your eyes, and you feel, not a presence exactly, but a nearness. You sit like that for a long time, and when you finally stand to leave, you realize something strange. You don't feel afraid. Not anymore. The walk home is quiet. No dreams chase you. No gods appear. Just the night. Just the stars. Just the sound of your own steps, steady and sure. When you reach your door, the bird is there. The same one from the roof. It watches you from the edge of a water jar, feathers puffed, head tilted. You nod to it. It nods back. You sleep soundly that night. No visions. No river. No judgment. Only the breath of reeds in the wind. And the knowledge that, for now, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. The days that follow slip by like water through your fingers. Warm, constant, and oddly familiar. There's a rhythm now, one you didn't notice before. Wake with the sun, stretch with the dust, speak to the dead in whispers, and nod to the living like you share a secret. Because maybe now you do. You're not obsessed with death, not exactly. You still laugh at jokes. You still flinch when you stub your toe. But now, when someone passes you in the market with a bundle of onions or a child on their hip, you look at them differently. You think, there goes another soul with a path to walk and a heart to weigh. It doesn't make life heavier. It makes it softer. You decide to visit the temple again. Not the main temple with the chanting and the stern-faced priests, but a smaller one, nestled near the palm groves. It's dedicated to Hathor, goddess of music, joy, and the sky. Also, somewhat unexpectedly, of the Afterlife's welcoming committee. A good goddess to have on your side, whether you're arriving at a party or at eternity. You arrive just as the sun crests the trees. A few women are already inside, sweeping the stone floor with palm brooms, humming under their breath. A girl barely 10 years old is lighting oil lamps, her fingers moving carefully, like this act is as sacred as the chanting itself. Maybe it is. You step inside, greeted not by incense, but by the faint scent of honey and sycamore. The walls are painted with scenes of music, lyres, harps, hand drums, dancers mid-step, their long black hair floating like shadows. On the far wall is a massive depiction of Hathor herself, cow ears, wide smile, sun disk nestled between her horns. You stare at her face. You feel seen, not judged, just noticed. You sit on the cool floor and listen. No one speaks to you. No one asks you why you're there, which is good, because you're not sure what you'd say. You just want to be near something gentle, something holy that isn't sharp or fire-eyed or holding scales in one hand and a feather in the other. After a while, a soft voice joins you. It belongs to a singer-priestess, draped in linen as pale as morning. She doesn't sit beside you. She sits a few feet away, a respectful distance, and she hums. It's not a song you know. It might not even be a song. It could just be the way the wind sounds when you're not pretending to be strong. She sings of Hathor welcoming the righteous dead, not with trumpets or blinding light, but with bread and beer, with song and dancing, with softness. May your path be lined with sycamores and shade, she sings. May your name be spoken even when mouths forget their own. May you laugh in the house of the golden cow. You close your eyes. You don't fall asleep, but your mind wanders. You picture a vast field, not of reeds, but of tall grass that rustles when you laugh. You see Nebaman there, somehow both younger and wiser. He's not farming. He's reclining. Someone brings him a cake made of dates. He waves and says, "About time you showed up," then laughs and throws a fig at you. You open your eyes. The song is ending. The singer stands and leaves you with a nod, so small it might have been imagined. You rise a few minutes later and leave without speaking. Your heart feels less full, but not empty, like something has been carefully poured out of it to make room for whatever comes next. As you step outside, you notice something peculiar. A woman, elderly but standing tall, is arguing with a scribe beneath a fig tree. You wander closer, discreetly, of course, like any good eavesdropper. She didn't write it herself, the old woman says. She told me. I carved it for her. The scribe frowns. Still, a woman's name doesn't belong alone on a funerary stela. And yet there it is. You glance at the stela, lying flat on the ground. It's beautifully done. Hieroglyphs etched in strong, confident lines. The name Tia, daughter of Tia, repeated at the top and bottom like a chant. A woman's name. Alone. No husband, no father, no son. The scribe sighs. You'll anger the priests. The old woman shrugs. Then let them carry her to the afterlife themselves. You walk on, smiling. Somewhere in the vast corridors of the underworld, you imagine Tia brushing past gatekeepers, her name glowing like a brand, her arms full of offerings she brought herself. You return home that evening to a half-burnt dinner, and your sister grumbling about the neighbor's donkey again. You help her stir the lentils anyway, even as she accuses you of forgetting the time. You tell her you've been with Hather. She rolls her eyes. That's your excuse this week. Better than saying I fell asleep under a tree. That night, you don't dream of the do-it. You dream of music, lyres and flutes, the hush of dancers' feet on sand, laughter echoing through palm groves. A golden sky opens above you, and in the distance, a figure waves, a woman, standing in the door of a house made of stars. She's singing, and somehow, she knows your name. When you wake, the sun is just beginning to spill through the cracks in the wall. You're warm, comfortable. You stretch and whisper to the morning air. Just to be sure, you speak your name aloud. Again, and it sounds like something worth remembering. The morning begins with an argument about onions. Your neighbor, a man named Hori with arms like baked pottery and a voice like a frustrated god, insists the onion tax has been raised again. Your sister says it hasn't. You don't care either way, but you're sipping water nearby, and now you're part of it. They weighed mine twice. Hori grumbles. Twice. I paid for the dirt still clinging to the root. Maybe they taxed your complaining. Your sister replies sweetly. You smile behind your clay cup and slip away before the onion war escalates into a full-scale produce rebellion. Besides, you have somewhere to be. The embalming is almost finished. Nebeman's body has been drying in natron for well over a month now. 40 days. Give or take the slowness of holy salt and a few skipped days due to a dust storm. Today, the embalmers begin the next phase, the wrapping. You walk slowly through the heat, feeling it settle into your shoulders. The Nile glitters off to your left, distant but watchful, as if it, too, is waiting to see how the body will be dressed for eternity. By the time you arrive at the House of Purification, the smell has shifted. Less sour now, more woody. The air is thick with the scent of myrrh, cedar resin, beeswax, and oil. Sacred smells. The kind of smells that feel older than words. Inside, the embalmers are already at work. Nebeman's body lies on a wooden slab, no longer looking quite like a man, and not yet looking like a god. Somewhere in between. The kind of in-between space that Egypt has always loved. Twilight, borderlands, mirrors, dreams. The wrapping begins at the feet. The embalmers work methodically, layer upon layer, linen soaked in oil, tied in precise knots. Between layers, they insert amulets, tiny figures and carved stones, each placed with intention. One at the neck to guard his speech, one at the hands to steady his grip in the afterlife. A small green scarab near the heart, silent, but watching. The priest in the jackal mask mutters spells. He doesn't read them. He knows them. His voice is rough with age, but steady, like the Nile during flood season. He pauses occasionally to rub oil into the linen or to nod at an assistant. You watch from the shadowed edge of the chamber, silent, still. Then something curious happens. A child walks in. No one stops her. She's about 9, barefoot, hair in tight braids with a bead at the end of each one. She carries a small bundle in her arms, wrapped in linen, tied with a strip of faded blue. She approaches the platform, careful, reverent. The chief embalmer looks at her. She speaks. This is for him. It's from the field, the good one. He unwraps it slowly. Inside is a handful of wheat stalks, dry but golden. A simple offering. The embalmer says nothing, just places the wheat gently near Nebeman's chest, right beneath the final wrap of cloth. Then the linen closes over it, like a door sealing shut. You think of all the afterlife art you've seen. Endless fields, golden grain waving in windless skies. You imagine Nebeman reaching for this very bundle as he walks through the field of reeds. Historians still debate the actual function of field imagery in tombs. Was it metaphorical nourishment? A reminder of one's duties? Or perhaps just a comforting picture of home, drawn large across eternity? Either way, the wheat is in. You stay for hours. You watch the embalmers coat the wrappings with warm resin, sealing the layers like tree bark. You watch as the face is shaped with a linen mask, noble, peaceful, idealized. A likeness of the man, but improved. Less human, more eternal. Finally, the coffin is brought in. Carved sycamore, polished to a dull gleam, painted with stars on the inside. The outside bears Nebuman's image, eyes wide, arms crossed, hands holding the jed, and with scepters of stability and power. His name is written multiple times. No one wants it forgotten. They place him inside. The lid fits snugly. You exhale. Not grief, not relief, just awe. A man has become something else. You walk home slower than usual. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the village. Everything feels a little more symbolic. The goat tied near the well isn't just a goat. It's a reminder of sacrifices. The children throwing stones at each other are practicing battle for a future they don't understand yet. The way your sister is angrily sweeping the porch, it's definitely a metaphor for divine vengeance. Back at home, the house smells like lentil stew and impatience. Your sister glares at you. You miss dinner. I witnessed a transformation. She squints. So, no stew then? You sit and scoop a handful of leftover lentils from the pot. They're cold, but familiar, comforting. You chew slowly, thinking of the wheat, of the blue-tied bundle, of the child who walked into the embalmer's chamber as though it were just another doorway. That night, the dreams return. But this time, you are not in the do-it. You are in a field, the real kind. Dry soil underfoot. A wind rolls across the grass. You're barefoot, holding a basket. Someone calls your name. You turn. It's Nebuman. He's laughing. Not loud, not wild, just happy. He points behind you. You look. There, standing at the edge of the field, is the child with the braids and beads. She's waving. The basket in your arms is suddenly full, overflowing with golden wheat. You look down, then back up. They're gone. And when you wake, the first light of dawn is sneaking through the cracks in the wall. And somewhere outside, a bird is singing the same 3 notes it always does. You speak your name again. This time, you smile as you do. The days after the final wrapping pass quietly, too quietly, in the way that makes your ears search for something to listen to, even if it's just the wind negotiating its way through papyrus reeds. The village carries on. Bread still bakes. Arguments about taxes still echo in alleyways. But you carry something now. A weight, maybe. Or a seed. You can't stop thinking about the wheat. Not just the child's offering, but the whole idea of it. A dead man walking through fields, gathering grain that never wilts, with no need to sweat or bend or bargain with the sun. A place where the work is its own reward, and the gods nod gently from the sidelines, like approving uncles. This morning, instead of heading to the market or joining your sister in the daily battle against an invading army of laundry, you follow a new direction, south, toward the edge of the village, toward the necropolis. Not the grand tombs, not Nebuman's, but the others, the poorer tombs, the forgotten ones. These are the ones without painted walls or golden statues, just mud brick chapels, low stone markers, and sometimes not even a name. You pass them slowly, letting your fingers graze the surfaces, rough and sun-worn. Some bare traces of writing, just enough to suggest a life once etched here. A fisherman, a scribe, a woman who sold dyed linen and was, apparently, beloved by cats. That last one has a crude feline carving near the base. You pause in front of one particular tomb. It's half buried by windblown sand. The doorway is narrow and dark. There's no inscription you can see. Only a deep gouge in the plaster where something once was. Someone has left a few sprigs of fresh herbs at the threshold. Not flowers, just humble green stems. They smell like fennel and clay. And suddenly, you remember something Setka the tomb carver said days ago, while adjusting the angle of a painted ear. Even the smallest tomb has a door. That's all you really need, a door and a name. The problem is, many of these people no longer have either. And that, you realize, is where you come in. You sit, not in prayer, not at first, just in thought. The sun creeps higher in the sky. The sand warms beneath you. Birds sweep overhead in lazy arcs. And slowly, like someone drawing a memory out of fog, you begin to speak. Not loudly, just enough for the wind to carry. You speak names. Names you remember from your childhood. Old neighbors, midwives, the man who played the flute with a goat that hated everyone. You speak the names of the quiet ones, the people who didn't get songs or statues, but who still woke before sunrise, still laughed, still cried when no one saw. You say their names out loud, one by one. Then you make up names. Not lies, just possibilities. Maybe this tomb belonged to Manut, daughter of Henu, who made the best lentil stew in town and once shouted at a priest for skipping her in the grain line. Or perhaps it was Hiria, who never married but always fed the cats and left offerings for the gods without asking for anything in return. You speak her name, too. It feels silly at first, but not for long, because the tombs don't laugh. They listen, and you start to notice something strange. The breeze stops skipping around your face and begins to move with more purpose. The air smells sharper, like warm stone and salt and dried resin. You feel a tingle along your spine, the kind that isn't entirely cold, but isn't warm either. It's the presence of something, not its absence. You realize what you're doing isn't a ritual. Not exactly. It's something older, something simpler. You are remembering the forgotten. You stand, knees stiff from sitting. You look out across the tombs, and for a moment, they don't feel like graves. They feel like houses, quiet ones, waiting. You promised them you'll come back. On your way home, the road feels different, not shorter, just changed, as if the stones have shifted beneath your feet to remember the shape of your walk. Back in the village, your sister is on the roof, yelling at a bird. It stole my reed comb. You blink. The bird, it took it out of the window and flew off with it like some kind of winged thief. You don't ask what she said in return, but judging by her expression, the bird probably needs to consult the Book of the Dead before it returns. You help her down the ladder, and over dinner, which you actually attend for once, she finally asks you, "What are you even doing all day?" You chew a mouthful of roasted chickpeas and think, "I'm collecting names." She raises an eyebrow. For what? A scroll. For the afterlife. She stares at you for a long moment, then shrugs. Fine, but if you come back as a scroll keeper, don't expect me to carry your offerings. You grin. That night you write. It's not formal writing, just a piece of broken pottery and some charcoal. You start with the names you said at the tombs, then the ones you didn't have time to say, then the ones you might never know. And as the lamp flickers and the stars settle into their nightly places, you write one more, yours, just in case. And as you lie down, bones tired, heart lighter than it has been in days, you whisper it again, to no one and everyone, just your name. And for the first time, you feel certain someone is listening. The next day arrives not with a rooster's crow, but with silence, a thick, humming sort of quiet that settles over the village like a fine layer of dust. Even the dogs are subdued, tails barely thumping against the ground, eyes half-lidded as if they, too, are waiting for something to happen. The heat feels different today. Less oppressive, more deliberate, like it has intentions. You step outside, shielding your eyes from the early sun. Your feet crunch on the sand, still cool before the midday burn. You hear whispers from neighbors, fragments of conversation passed like folded notes. The procession is today. They say it'll be a good one. 3 priests, a whole chorus, and even the boat has new paint. The funeral. Nebamans. You feel a strange stillness settle in your chest. Not grief, not dread, just a quiet alertness. As if some part of you has been holding its breath and is about to exhale. You follow the procession route without needing directions. Everyone does. It starts near the House of Purification, winds down the village path, turns past the sycamore grove, and makes its way to the Nile, where the sacred boat waits to carry the coffin westward, toward the land of the dead, where the sun dies each evening only to be reborn again come morning. The road is lined with people, some solemn, others murmuring blessings, a few simply curious. Children sit on their parents' shoulders. Old women press charms to their lips. A handful of donkeys watch with total indifference. The priests emerge first, clothed in pure white linen, faces calm, movements deliberate. They carry censers that spill trails of sweet, pungent incense into the morning air. Frankincense, myrrh kiffy. It's the scent of ceremony, of doors opening. Then come the bearers, 6 men lifting Nebaman's coffin onto a bier draped in cloth of gold and indigo. The coffin itself is magnificent. You saw it before, but never like this. Never in the sunlight, never surrounded by song. Painted eyes stare from the lid, looking straight ahead. The symbols for protection, rebirth, power, and peace shimmer faintly in the heat. An image of the sky goddess, nut stretches across the top, her arms open, as if she's about to embrace him, or catch him, should he fall. Following behind are mourners, some professional, hired to weep and wail in ritual lamentation, others genuine, their grief deeper than the priest's chants. You recognize Nebaman's wife, wrapped in layers of white. She walks with a slow dignity, but her hands tremble as she holds an amulet to her chest. Beside her, the child with the wheat. She walks in silence, braids tied tightly today, a new bead dangling near her cheek. She holds a small clay figurine, perhaps a shabti, perhaps a toy. Her face is unreadable. Still, the chanting begins. Come forth by day, O shining soul. Let the gates of the west be opened. Let your name be spoken in the hall of truth. The rhythms are slow, echoing, repetitive, like footsteps echoing down a long stone corridor. They aren't designed for drama. They're meant to lull the soul forward. You join the procession quietly, near the rear. No one stops you. Everyone becomes part of it eventually. As the crowd winds toward the Nile, you start to notice more. Symbols scratched into doorways, blue beads tied above thresholds, women sprinkling water before the bier, offerings left on windowsills, bread, onions, honey, sometimes just a single flower. Everything means something today. At the riverbank, the sacred boat waits. It's long and low, carved of cedar, painted with stripes of blue and green. At its bow stands a small wooden statue of Anubis, ears perked, gaze fixed west. The coffin is placed inside with reverence. A priest sprinkles water from a palm bowl. Another lights fresh incense. The air smells like burnt sweetness and sun-baked wood. The river itself seems to pause. Then slowly, the boat is pushed off. You watch it glide onto the current, rocking gently. The chant continues, carried by voices and water. The priests remain on shore, as do the mourners, but the soul, his soul, goes west. You don't speak. No one does. It's not sadness. It's awe. For a moment, it feels like the entire land holds still, as if Ra himself, riding his solar bark through the underworld, slows his journey just slightly to make room for one more. Historians still debate how widely these full funerary processions were practiced. Some say they were reserved only for the elite. Others argue that simplified versions existed for commoners, the rites passed down in fragments, adapted in whispers. What is certain is this: the symbolism remains the same. The boat drifts out of view, slipping behind a curve in the reeds. The spell is broken. People begin to turn back, slowly, quietly. Some return to work, others to gossip. A few linger, looking at the river like it might whisper a final word. You sit on a low rock and let your hands rest in your lap. The child with the braids walks past, still holding the figurine. As she passes, she looks at you, just for a moment. Not a greeting, not a farewell. Recognition. Then she's gone. You stay until the sun is high. Later that evening, back home, you help your sister crush coriander seeds with the mortar and pestle. The scent rises and fills the room. She says nothing about your absence. She doesn't have to. That night, you light your own oil lamp and place it by the doorway. Not because you're afraid of the dark, but because you like the idea of someone, or something, seeing your home as a point of light in the vast night. Before bed, you kneel and open the same piece of pottery where you've been writing names. You take the charcoal. You write one more, Nebaman. Then you say it aloud. And this time, when you lie down to sleep, you don't dream of judgment halls or fields or stars. You dream of water, still, dark, and endless. And a boat, sailing toward morning. The next morning feels heavier, not in the bones, but in the silence. The kind of quiet that isn't just the absence of noise, but the presence of memory. You wake slowly, staring up at the rafters of your home as if they might speak. Outside, the day has begun. Roosters, footsteps, laughter leaking through the walls. But inside, you are adrift. The image of the boat still lingers behind your eyes. You see it as clearly now as you did yesterday, gliding down the Nile, carrying a man wrapped in silence toward the western horizon. There's something unsettling about how easily life continues in its wake, how the village resets itself, how the sun doesn't miss a beat. You rise, but you don't rush. Today, you don't want to carry water or haggle for lentils or chase a goat out of someone's laundry. Today you walk, not toward the temples, not toward the tombs, but along the edge of the fields, the in-between place, where the green life of the living meets the golden death of the sand. Here, farmers are already bent at the waist, their robes tied up around their thighs, pulling stubborn weeds and singing off-key. A young girl walks past with a basket of leeks, too large for her frame. She wobbles under its weight, but doesn't complain. You step off the beaten path, the grass brushing your ankles like a memory. In the distance, a shepherd whistles to his flock. A boy throws stones at a canal wall to make patterns in the ripples. Life in motion, life as usual. You sit beneath an acacia tree. Its shade is thin, but it's enough. From your satchel, you pull out the broken shard of pottery, the one where you've been writing names. You trace the latest one with your finger. Nebaman, then your own, then the blank space after it. You've been thinking about that space more and more lately, not in a morbid way, just practically. What will happen to your name when your breath stops? Who will say it? Who will carve it into stone, or scribble it in ink, or whisper it as they walk past your tomb? You used to think the priests would handle it. Now you know better. Now you know the dead live in stories, not scrolls. You sit with this thought for a while. The tree creaks slightly in the breeze, and above you, a single pod drops from a high branch and lands softly beside your foot. You pick it up. It smells faintly sweet, like old sugar and rain. Then you hear a voice. Not a ghost, not a god, just someone old. I wouldn't sit there too long, says a man, approaching with a staff. That tree has a sense of humor. You look up. He's wrinkled like parchment, eyes sharp as flint, wearing robes stained with age and earth. A wide leather band crosses his chest, holding a pouch and a small knife. He settles beside you like someone who has never asked for permission in his life. Name's Passer, he says. Tomb sealer. Retired. You tell him your name. He doesn't write it down, but he nods like he's filed it somewhere safe. You're the one collecting names, he says. You blink. How do you know? Word gets around. Also, I've been watching you for 3 days. You look at him. He shrugs. It's a small necropolis. You sit in silence for a moment. Then you ask, why did you stop sealing tombs? He leans back against the tree, eyes squinting toward the sky. Too many doors, not enough keys, he says. Too many people who paid for silence instead of stories. You nod. He continues. They come to me with gold and linen, with paint and prayers. They say, make it eternal. And I do. But you know what's eternal. He taps his head. The thing that stays here. You wait. He doesn't elaborate. Instead, he opens his pouch and pulls out a small piece of limestone. On it is a carved figure, simple, almost childlike. A man with arms raised, and beside him, a palm tree. Never got to use this one, he says. Commissioned it for a man who died before he could pay. You examine it. The lines are soft. The face, though unrefined, seems joyful. What happened to him? Passer shrugs. No idea. Maybe he's walking in the field of reeds now. Maybe he's still waiting. You hand the figure back, but he pushes it toward you. Take it. I can't. You can, and you will, because when your tomb is built, and it will be, one way or another, you'll want something that reminds you that joy doesn't have to be perfect to be remembered. You stare at the figure. Then you nod. Later, You part ways without ceremony. He walks north, whistling a tune you don't know, and you walk east, cradling the carved stone like it's heavier than it looks. Back in the village, your sister has found your pottery shard. She's added a name to it. Hers. Next to it, a drawing of a cat. You raise an eyebrow. She was here before me, she says, pointing to the cat. Respect your elders. You roll your eyes, but you don't erase it. That night, the oil lamp flickers more gently than usual. You place the carved figure beside it. The shadows it casts on the wall are warm, almost dancing. Before bed, you add a few more names. Not from the tombs, from the living. You write, Hori, Seka, the girl with the wheat, the singer priestess, Passer, the cat. You whisper them aloud, one by one, and when you get to yours, you say it twice. Not because you're afraid it'll be forgotten, but because it finally sounds like it belongs. You wake before dawn, not because anything demands it, but because something in you has begun to rise with the first breath of light. It's not discipline. It's not even habit. It's a kind of remembering, as if your body now knows that the veil is thinner when the world is still cool and quiet and half asleep. The house is dim. The embers in the hearth are barely orange. Your sister is curled beneath a reed mat, mumbling in her sleep. The cat, yes, that cat, has claimed your blanket and looks personally offended that you would consider reclaiming it. You let her win. Stepping outside, the village is more shadow than shape. The horizon is painted with the thinnest thread of gold. You walk barefoot. The sand is damp and cool, clinging to your soles, whispering against your skin. Somewhere nearby, a single frog croaks from a flooded ditch, and it sounds momentarily like laughter. You head toward the Nile. You've learned that the river doesn't belong to the day. It belongs to this hour, when the sky is neither dark nor light, and the world hasn't yet chosen who it wants to be. The water is still, interrupted only by the occasional ripple from a sleepy fish or a bird skimming its surface like a thrown ribbon. You sit. You don't come here to pray. You don't even come to think. You come to listen. And today, the river speaks. Not in words, but in a rhythm, a pulse that mirrors your breath. That seems to say, you are here. You are not alone. You are part of this. You pull the pottery shard from your satchel. It's fuller now. Names on every curve, some layered over others as the ink bled and blurred in the heat. There are faces attached to them now, memories. Some names you wrote because they were forgotten. Some because you refused to let them be. And some because, for reasons you can't quite explain, you feel like they belong to you too. You dip your fingers into the Nile. Not to drink, to mark. With the water, you touch the shard. Just once. Then your forehead. Then your chest. It's not a ritual anyone taught you, but it feels right. As you sit with the shard in your lap, you hear footsteps behind you. Soft, hesitant. You turn. It's the girl with the wheat. She's older than you remember, not by age, but by gaze. Her braids are looser today, and her hands are full. Not with grain, with clay. She sits beside you without a word. The river doesn't protest. She unwraps her bundle. Inside, small figures. Not polished, not painted. Rough shapes of men and women, animals, even what looks like a tree. Some stand, some sit. One lies flat, like it's asleep. You look at her. They're for the ones with no tomb, she says, simply. You nod. She picks up one, the tree, and places it beside your pottery shard. Then she speaks. This one is for my mother. She was buried with nothing but linen. No name. No charms. You don't speak. You just hold space for her words. She taught me the songs that call the field winds. She said they would carry her name if I didn't forget it. What was it, you ask? Share it. You say it softly. Again. Share it. The river shifts. The girl nods. She begins to arrange the other figures on the riverbank, forming a small circle. You help. Slowly, gently, as if you're placing real people. Maybe you are. A man holding a staff. A woman with an exaggerated braid. A fish. A jug. A child. A cat. The girl smiles when she sees that one. This one's for the cat that follows you, she says. She came to me too. You pretend to be offended. so I'm being haunted by a community cat. She's doing better than most priests." You both laugh. It's soft but real. As the sun climbs higher, the figures begin to cast shadows on the sand, tiny silhouettes, long and strange, stretching toward the water as if eager to join it. You place your shard in the center of the circle. The girl looks at you. "What will you do with it?" "I don't know yet," you say, "but it won't be buried." She nods once, satisfied, then wraps up the remaining figures and stands. When she walks away, she leaves the tree. You stay for a while, watching the clay silhouettes fade under the light. When you finally rise, you gather the tree and the shard and walk back to the village slowly, as if the path has grown longer and wiser in your absence. At home, your sister has started cleaning the house like she's preparing it for royalty or death. You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. The midwife says another baby's coming. The house next to Sekka's. You nod. Life, always arriving, even as death sails down the river. You help her. You sweep the sand. You shoo the goat away from the door. You rearrange the lamp and the woven mats. And that night, you place the tree next to the carved limestone figure Passer gave you. Now, there are 3 tokens on your shelf. The man, the tree, and the cat-shaped shadow on the wall behind them, made real by the flicker of the lamp. You speak their names again. Sherrod, Nebaman, Passer, and yours. You no longer say it out of fear. You say it because it sounds like something worth carving. And for the first time, you realize you aren't collecting names. You're planting them. Morning returns in layers. The first is the pale whisper of light slipping through the cracks in your wall. The second is the groan of the wood frame above your head as the sun begins to warm it. The third, always the third, is the sound of the village stirring. Footsteps, fire crackles, pots clanging, a few donkeys discussing theology in the distance. You stretch slowly, the blanket sliding down your chest, the cat rolling onto your leg in protest. Her reign continues. You lie still for a moment, staring at the ceiling, not out of fatigue, but out of quiet satisfaction. There's a fullness in you now, the kind that doesn't press but settles, like water in a deep jar. You rise and prepare for the day. No great plans today. No funerals, no tombs, no names to carve. Just the ordinary flow of living, hauling, sweeping, bartering, laughing. But as you put on your linen tunic, you notice something. The edge of your shard journal is now beginning to crack. There's almost no room left. You trace the names. Your thumb passes over the faded ink, over Nebaman, Sherrod, Sekka, and the rest. So many names now. Some written in haste, others with trembling care. A mosaic of memory. But one space remains, a small curve on the underside, untouched. You save it. Later, while walking to the market, you overhear 2 women whispering about the midwife. She delivered the child with nothing but her hands and a prayer to Tarid. No knife, not even water, just her voice, and a song I didn't understand. That stops you. You follow them at a safe distance, past the granary, past the sycamores, toward the edge of the village, where Sekka's house leans into the shadows of 2 ancient palms. The child was born here last night, a new life, in a world full of endings. You approach slowly, expecting to be turned away, but the door is open, and inside there's only quiet. You stand at the threshold. The midwife is inside, holding a clay bowl and gently washing her hands. Her movements are steady, as if her body remembers what her mind has long let go. She glances at you once, then gestures softly for you to come in. You do. The mother lies nearby, asleep, skin glistening with the sheen of exhaustion. The baby rests against her chest, wrapped tightly in linen. He makes no sound, just breathes, tiny and even, like a reed shifting in a calm wind. You kneel beside him, and for a moment, the whole world seems to breathe with you. He has no name yet, the midwife says. They're waiting for the father to return from the quarry. You nod. Then, as gently as you can, you whisper, "May it be one worth remembering." She doesn't respond, but you think you see her smile. You leave quietly, not wanting to disturb the air that's still thick with birth and blessing. Outside, the wind picks up, curling the hem of your tunic and carrying the scent of fig leaves and burnt oil. On the way back, you stop at the potter's stall. He's fanning himself with a broken plate. "I need something," you tell him. He eyes you. You always do. You describe it, a jar, just big enough to hold your shard journal. One that can be sealed, but not buried. One that could sit on a shelf or travel in a satchel. Something durable, but not plain. He thinks. Then he nods. "Come back tomorrow." Before you leave, he adds, "Bring something for the fire. This clay's stubborn." You smile. "How about an old fig branch?" He snorts. "Bring two." You walk home, the light hitting you full in the face now. The sun is high, but not cruel. It warms the road, the stones, your shoulders. You realize you've been smiling without noticing, that your steps have a rhythm to them today. An easy, grounded beat, like the chorus of a song you once knew, but only now remember. At home, your sister is seated on the floor, weaving a basket. You've been gone for hours. "Had to me a baby." She doesn't ask for clarification. She simply gestures toward a folded piece of cloth on the table. "You'll want to wear that tonight." You unfold it. It's a robe, plain but clean. Someone's wedding robe, maybe. Or a festival garment handed down through too many hands to remember. "What's tonight?" you ask. She shrugs. There's always something. A gathering. A story. A reason. And she's right. Because later, as dusk deepens into that soft velvet blur, you follow the sound of flutes and find yourself at the edge of the fields, where lanterns sway from tall sticks, and people gather not for mourning, but for stories. A circle has formed. In the center stands Passer, the old tomb sealer, holding a cup and laughing like a man who's buried more secrets than anyone ever will. He waves you forward. "Tell us a story," he says. You hesitate. Then you reach into your satchel and pull out the shard. "This is full of names," you begin. "People I've met. People I've imagined. People who didn't get stories until now." You hold it up, and one by one, you begin to speak the names aloud. Slowly, clearly, not as a list, but as a rhythm, as a memory. And after each name, you share something small. Nebeman, he laughed like thunder in a clay jar. Sherrod, she called the field winds with her mother's song. Passer, he carved joy into stone because no one else would. The cat still rules this village with silent contempt. People laugh. People listen. People lean forward. And something happens. Someone else calls out a name. Then another. Soon, the circle is echoing with names, spoken aloud, passed from one mouth to another like offerings. Some are old. Some are new. Some are made up on the spot. But none are forgotten. The stars appear. The flutes slow. The names linger. And when it is quiet again, truly quiet, you take a breath. You place the shard back in your satchel. One blank space left. And you know exactly what name it's for. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight, you walk home slowly, beneath a sky that seems to hum with every name ever spoken. And as you lie down, the robe still warm on your skin, you close your eyes not with thoughts of the afterlife, but of the present, the names that live in the air, the breath you carry, and the seed of your own memory, still growing. The jar is ready. You arrive early, just after sunrise, when the clay is still warm from its final firing. The potter hands it to you without ceremony. It's heavier than you expected, sturdy, rounded, with a lid that fits snugly like a whispered secret. He grunts. It'll last longer than you. You turn it in your hands. The glaze is simple, the color the soft gray of river stones. On the side, scratched just beneath the lip, is a single symbol, a tiny reed, barely visible unless you know to look. It's the sign for life, he mutters, not meeting your eyes. Not eternal life, just life. You nod. You thank him, and you leave a fig branch beside his kiln, as promised. The jar stays by your side all day. It doesn't speak, of course, but it hums in its own way. As you walk through the village, past the baker's corner where the bread smells thick and golden, past the blacksmith's stall where sparks crackle and scatter like fireflies, the jar sits in your arms, cradled like a child, or a memory. You stop at the sycamore grove, near where the funeral procession once passed. There, you place the shard inside it, one name shy of full. You don't seal it. Not yet. Instead, you carry it to the quietest place you know, the slope above the necropolis, where the wind always moves and the horizon stretches endlessly westward, toward the land of the setting sun. You sit beneath the same acacia tree where you met Passer. He's not here today, but a reed whistle, crudely carved, lies in the sand. You pick it up, brush off the dust, and turn it over in your hands. You try to blow it. It squeals like a dying goose. You laugh, out loud, startling a bird from the branches above. You place the whistle next to the jar. Then you begin speaking names again. Not from the shard, from memory. This time, you speak their stories. Hori, the onion warrior, who once threatened to duel a tax collector with a leek. The singer priestess, whose song made you see stars even in daylight. Bach, the man who dreamed of 12 gates and heard snakes hissing in his sleep. The girl with the clay figures, whose silences said more than most people's songs. You say your sister's name, too. You say it with a smirk, remembering how she once chased a goat across the rooftops with nothing but a shoe. And then you say the cat's name. Not a real name, just a noise you once heard your sister yell at her in frustration. The wind carries it into the valley, like a prayer written in fur and whiskers. You stay there most of the morning, long enough for the shade to shift, long enough for your stomach to growl, long enough to forget what you were waiting for. And then remember, because someone else appears. It's the child, the one with the wheat. She doesn't speak at first, just stands beside you and looks out over the necropolis. She's taller now. Not much, but enough. Her braids are shorter. One hand is wrapped in a cloth, burned maybe, or cut. The other holds something wrapped in linen. Without asking, she sits beside you and unwraps the bundle. Inside is another figure. This one is different from the rest. Not a person, not an animal. It's a box. Or rather, the shape of a box, sculpted from red clay, carved with tiny notches on each side. What is it, you ask? She doesn't look up. It's a tomb. You blink. A tomb. For the ones who don't get one. She runs her thumb over the top ridge, where a name might one day go. Or maybe not. It stays with me, she says, but holds them. You nod slowly, and without knowing why, you reach into your satchel and pull out the jar. You set it beside her tomb, the two vessels sitting side by side in the sand, a pair of homes for memory. You both sit there in silence for a long time. A breeze rustles the acacia branches overhead. A lizard scurries between your feet. The clay figures and the jar seem to pulse with meaning, not because of what they are, but because of what they carry. She looks at you finally. You still haven't finished it. You know what she means. The shard. One name remains unwritten. I'm not ready, you admit. She shrugs. You don't have to be. You just have to know. Know what? She looks at you with a gaze, so steady it could pierce time, that your name belongs. The words settle like a warm stone in your chest, and you realize she's right. You don't have to finish the shard today, but you do have to believe that one day it will be spoken, not by you, but by someone else. Maybe someone you haven't met yet. Maybe someone who will find your name scratched on the side of a jar, buried in a forgotten alcove beside a clay tomb, beneath a tree that never stops whispering. You rise, carefully lifting the jar, dusting it off. She stands, too, doesn't take the tomb, leaves it there, beside the reed whistle, beside your breath. You both walk back to the village together, side by side, saying nothing, but the silence feels full now. When you reach your home, your sister is on the roof again, trying to hang laundry and fight the cat off the same mat at the same time. She sees you, waves, then yells. She chewed through my belt. You nod solemnly. She's a priestess of chaos. I hope she makes it to the afterlife. She'll be the one weighing our hearts. That night, the wind is warm. The lamp burns brighter than usual. You place the jar near your sleeping mat. The shard inside rests, still open, still waiting, and you lie down beside it, not as a collector of names anymore, but as one more name, waiting to be remembered. The dream comes without warning. You're in the necropolis again, but the sky is darker than you've ever seen it. Neither night nor storm, but a kind of charcoal hush. There are stars, yes, but they blink like slow embers, and the air smells not of dust or incense, but ink. Thick, wet ink. You walk barefoot, past tombs you don't recognize. Each one hums softly, as if alive. You pass one that is shaped like a reed boat, its mast swaying in a wind that doesn't touch your skin. Another resembles a giant open eye, watching you without malice, without blinking. You feel like you're being read as you move, your name unrolled like a scroll, your thoughts written down in invisible script. Then you see it. A door. Not a tomb door, not stone or wood, but papyrus. Tall and curved, fluttering as if underwater. Upon it, your name, or something close to it. A few symbols are wrong. One is missing. Another has been drawn hastily over. You reach for it, and wake up. The sun is already slipping through the shutters, painting wide golden bands across the wall. The cat is sitting on your chest, purring with menace. You sit up, heart still thudding in your ribs, not from fear, but from a sense of urgency. Like you forgot something important, and just now remembered it again. You dress quickly. Your sister notices. Another funeral? No, you say. A beginning. She doesn't ask questions. She simply hands you a piece of leftover bread and shoos the cat off your sandals. You head to the scribe's corner near the temple. It's where people go when they want their words to last longer than their voices. Usually it's busy. People asking for love letters, business contracts, or blessings for newborns. But today it's quiet. A young man with ink-stained fingers sits under a canopy of palm leaves, scribbling on a long scroll with a reed pen. You approach, holding the jar. I need a copy made, you say. He eyes you, then the jar. I don't usually copy onto clay. Not the jar. What's inside it? You sit cross-legged and carefully remove the shard. He examines it with growing curiosity. There are a lot of names here. Yes, most of them don't match any family records. They're real, you say, even if no one remembers them but me. He nods. He doesn't argue. He doesn't laugh. He just unrolls a fresh scroll and dips his pen. And you begin. It takes hours. You read them aloud, slowly. Some you must spell. Some you pronounce 3 times, as if willing them to stay in the air longer. With each name, you tell a fragment of a story. A gesture, a laugh, a habit, a single act of kindness. The scribe listens, writes. By midday, the scroll is almost halfway filled. I'll keep going, he says. But may I ask something? Of course. Why are you doing this? You think for a moment, because not every soul is buried with a voice. Some need a new one. He dips his pen again. When you leave, he promises to finish it by week's end. Outside, the wind is picked up, tugging at your sleeves, curling through your hair. You take the long way home, past the granaries, past the weavers and the fig trees, past the new mother's house. She's outside today, rocking her child beneath a canopy of reeds. You stop. He's been named, she says, smiling. What name? Amos, after my grandfather. You nod. It's a good name. Strong. Do you want to hold him? You hesitate. Then you do. The baby fits into your arms with shocking ease. He smells of milk and skin warmed by the sun. His eyelids flutter like tiny wings. His hands curl and uncurl around nothing. You look down at him. Hello, Amos. You whisper. May your name be said 1,000 times, in joy and in blessing. He sighs deeply, and in that moment, you realize something. You aren't just preserving names. You're planting futures, too. You hand him back gently. The mother thanks you. You continue on. Back home, your sister has drawn symbols on the floor in chalk. Protection, she says. The baby's been born. We need balance. You nod. Together, you light the lamp. That night, you sit by it and unwrap the shard again. One space left. One name. Yours. You stare at the curve of clay. Then you pick up the charcoal, breathe in, and write. Your name. You write it gently. Not too deep. Not too dark. Just enough. And then, you whisper it aloud. Once for the past. Once for the present. Once for whatever comes next. You place the shard back in the jar and seal it. Not to hide it, but to protect it. To keep it whole until someone else, years from now, maybe centuries, finds it and whispers your name. The cat settles on your lap. The lamp flickers low, and you fall asleep with your jar beside you, your name inside it, and the story still unfolding. The jar remains sealed, not with wax or resin, but with intention. It's placed now on the shelf above your sleeping mat, steady, unmoving, like a silent promise. Each night before you lie down, you glance at it. You don't touch it. You don't open it. But you feel its presence like a warm stone on your chest, reminding you of what you've said and what you've yet to say. You've begun to notice something else. People have started coming to you, not in crowds, not for miracles, but quietly, soft-footed, hesitant at first. An old woman from the edge of the village arrives one afternoon. She stands at your doorway, holding a carved wooden spoon and a piece of old fabric. My mother's name was Bakay, daughter of Sima. She used to sing while stirring lentils, she says. No one remembers her now, but I do. Sometimes I hear her humming when I cook. You nod. You invite her in. You write the name down. You ask what kind of songs. She hums one off-key but lovely. You try to sing it back. You both laugh at how badly you fail. She leaves smiling. Later, a boy no older than 10 arrives holding a piece of fired clay with a name scratched into it. His brother, who died in the flood last year. He used to steal the bread crust when no one was looking, he says, even when it was burnt. You write the name. Not perfectly, but carefully. Others follow. A quiet man with one eye who once taught dancing to temple girls. A woman who claims to dream in hieroglyphs and believes her grandmother is sending her messages through painted birds. A man who won't give his own name, but offers one from a friend who laughed too loudly in the tombs. The names gather. They don't go on the shard. That's sealed now, complete. But you write them elsewhere, on palm paper, on smooth stone, on scraps of linen, even into the dust near your doorstep. You start to understand something profound. You've become a scribe of the forgotten, not a priest, not a prophet, just a listener. You've become the kind of person the afterlife leans toward. One evening, as you return from the market, bag heavy with onions and the soft sweetness of preserved dates, you notice something odd. At your doorstep, there's a basket. Not unusual. Sometimes neighbors leave figs or broken tools for mending. But this time, inside the basket is something else. A cat. Not yours. Not the cat. This one is small, bony, with wide eyes and a crooked tail. It stares at you, and in its mouth, delicately held, is a strip of papyrus. You kneel slowly. You take the papyrus. It reads, "For the name I lost before I was born, please keep it safe." No signature. No clue. You glance around. No one watching. The cat flicks its tail, jumps down, and vanishes around the corner. You hold the papyrus to your chest. Later that night, you add a new shelf. You place it above the seal jar. On it, the papyrus, a bowl of dried lentils for Bakay, a burned bread crust for the boy's brother, a small carved dancer for the one-eyed teacher, and a bundle of reeds tied with twine. Each item is a story. Each story is a name. You call this your second jar, though it isn't sealed. It isn't shaped. It's simply a space for holding what refuses to vanish. Your sister notices, of course. "You're collecting ghosts now," she asks. You shrug. "Only the well-behaved ones." She pauses. "And the cat?" "What cat?" "The one that keeps sleeping on your roof." You both look up. Sure enough, a sliver of tail disappears behind the thatch. She's got your eyes. Your sister mutters, "You worry me." But she smiles when she says it. And later, you find her slipping a name into the shelf. Nafi, written on a fig leaf. Your father. You don't say anything. You just place a dried fig beside it and nod once. That night, you dream again. Not of fields. Not of tombs. But of a room made entirely of names. They line the walls, carved into clay. Etched in ink, woven into cloth. The floor is made of whispered stories. The ceiling of memory. You walk through it barefoot, careful not to step too loudly. You find your name glowing softly, like an oil lamp, and beside it others. Names you've spoken, names you've received, names no one else knows but you. And one new one, Amos, the baby. You wake with tears on your cheeks, not sadness, gratitude, because the world is still making names, still adding to the story, still trusting anyone to remember. As you rise, the morning is already bright. You step out into the day, jar steady in your arms, and walk not with heaviness, but with rhythm, because you now understand. The afterlife isn't a place. It's a conversation, and you're learning how to listen. The rains arrive, not the kind of heavy downpour that drowns crops and collapses mud brick roofs. No, these are gentle, soft rains, like the sky remembering to cry slowly after holding it in too long. They fall in short bursts, sprinkling on rooftops, turning dust to perfume, running in narrow rivulets between stones like miniature Nile deltas. You welcome the rain. You stand beneath it barefoot, letting it darken your tunic and bead in your eyelashes. The jar, now your daily companion, stays safely under the awning, dry and undisturbed. You don't mind getting wet. The village doesn't either. On mornings like this, work begins later. Markets hum slower. People move differently, like they're walking through music. You feel it in your bones. Today is a day for reflection. You walk out past the edge of the fields again. The green is richer here, deepening where the water has soaked into the earth. You stop near the canal, where frogs trill from the reeds like gossiping ancestors. The air smells of clay and memory. You sit and pull out the small scroll the scribe gave you. It's done now. He delivered it 3 days ago, rolled and tied with twine. Its end smudged where he pressed his fingertips for luck. You haven't read it since. But now, as the rain falls gently across your shoulders, you unroll it slowly. The names look different in his hand. Tidy, precise, like offerings laid in straight rows. Each name spaced out, honored with breath and ink. He didn't just transcribe them, he understood them. You reach the end of scroll, and there it is. Your name, written last. Not the biggest, not the boldest. Just there, holding space like a reed in still water. You read it aloud. It no longer feels strange. It no longer feels like something borrowed from your parents, or assigned by a priest, or shouted across a courtyard. It feels earned. You roll the scroll again and slip it back into its cloth wrap. You lean back and let the rain kiss your cheeks. Then a voice calls from behind you. Keeper. You turn. It's the girl again, the one with the wheat. But she's not alone. Beside her stands a boy, gangly, sunbrown, with a missing sandal and a face full of questions. He holds a broken amulet in his palm. The top has cracked clean through the eye of Horus, leaving it blank-eyed and lopsided. He has a name to give, she says. The boy hesitates. You wait. He steps forward, slowly, hand outstretched. She was my sister, he says. Her name was Isiri. She was afraid of thunder, so I told her our aim made it to wake up the stars. You take the amulet from his hand. Isiri. You repeat. She laughed like it hurt, he adds. You smile. You don't write it down just yet. You want to remember it first. Feel how it fits in your mouth. Some names need to be spoken before they're recorded. The girl sets down a small offering. 3 cracked dates on a folded piece of linen. She liked these. The boy says. She always said figs were too showy. You both laugh. The 3 of you sit by the water's edge in silence, watching it carry away small flecks of soil and petals dropped from nearby trees. The frogs are still singing. Somewhere across the water, an egret stands perfectly still, as if listening. Then the girl reaches into her satchel. She pulls out a small lump of clay, wet red, already shaped into a half-finished figure. Make something, she says. For Isiri. No, she says. With her. You hesitate. Then you press your thumb into the clay. It leaves a print. Then a second. Then a line. You don't try to shape anything perfect. Just familiar. An open hand. A smile. A pair of eyes, one slightly larger than the other. When it's done, the figure is clumsy, lopsided, charming. It looks like someone who might laugh too hard at something small. The boy places the figure on a flat stone. You let the rain harden it naturally. No fire needed. Later that evening, you carry the figure home. You don't place it on the shelf yet. Instead, you place it beside your bed. You want her to be near for at least one night. And that night, you dream again. But this time, it's not a field or a boat or a gate. It's a table. Long, low, surrounded by people. All the names. You recognize them. Some are laughing, others eating. A few resting their heads on folded arms, as if listening to an old song. At the far end, Passeer is carving something into wood. Bach is telling a story that makes no sense. The cat sits in the middle of the table, regal and smug. And next to you, Isiri. She's biting into a date. She leans in and whispers, "Tell my brother I forgive him for breaking my sandals." You wake laughing. In the morning, your sister asks, "What was that noise last night?" "Ghosts," you reply. "Hungry ones." She rolls her eyes. "Tell them to cook their own lentils." You go to the shelf and add Isiri's figure. Beside it, you write her name on a clean potsherd. You light a small lamp. Not because you're afraid of the dark, but because she might still be laughing in it, and you want her to see her way home. A wind arrives with the morning, not the dry, cracking kind that blasts across the desert and makes shutters rattle like bones. This wind is different. It carries with it the scent of silt and rain-soaked flax, and something older, something faintly metallic, like the inside of a forgotten tomb, or the breath of a statue that has waited too long to speak. You feel it immediately. You rise before the sun and step outside, jar in hand, cloak wrapped loosely around your shoulders. The village is still mostly sleeping, though a few oil lamps flicker behind cloth-draped windows, like eyes blinking open to a dream they can't quite remember. You follow the wind. It doesn't push. It draws, like a thread pulling you somewhere you were already halfway to reaching. Past the well, past the goat pen, past the baker's stone hearth, where embers still smolder from the night's last loaves. And then, you stop, not because you've reached a destination, but because she is there. The girl, again, always appearing when you're not expecting her, as if she's woven into the rhythm of the story now. But today she isn't alone. This time, she's holding something. A scroll, but not one made of papyrus. This one is linen. You blink. It's rare, expensive, not meant to be written on, but wrapped around the bodies of the dead. Yet someone has inked it, each letter a careful stitch in time, faded but legible. She hands it to you without speaking. You unfold it, and your breath catches. It's a name, but not just a name, yours. Written not once, but many times, in many hands. Some neat, some clumsy, some barely more than scratches, as if by someone learning to write. And then beneath them, other names. Dozens, hundreds. You don't understand at first. And then she says, quietly, like wind through reeds, "These are the names of those who remembered you." You look at her. Your mouth is dry. "I'm still here." She nods. "But you gave them their names first, so they gave yours back." You look again. Some names you recognize. Some you don't. Some are from dreams. And one, at the bottom corner, in a different ink, newer, is hers. You realize then that this is no ordinary scroll. It's a recording of memory. Not history. Not story. Memory. And memory, in this world, is what makes you real. The girl kneels and places a stone beside you. On it a new name. One that hasn't been said aloud yet. "Say this one," she tells you. You do. Kaput. You wait for more. She shrugs. "That's all I know. It came to me in a dream. No face. No voice. Just a sense of forgetting." So you write it, on the shard of your palm. Then again on the linen scroll. Then once more on your tongue, letting the name roll there until it feels like breath. Kaput. The wind picks up, and now you hear things. Not words, not voices, but footsteps. Faint, measured, like someone walking from a long, long distance. You look up. Across the sand, a figure is approaching. Slowly, cloaked, face hidden in the shadow of a hood. You tense. The girl doesn't. She watches with calm recognition. He's not here for you, she says. Who is he? She hesitates. The one who collects what's been forgotten too long. You shiver, but not from fear. From respect. The figure walks past you both, silent, deliberate, as if following the sound of the names you just whispered. He stops where the wind changes and kneels, pressing his hand into the sand, then vanishes. No theatrics, no smoke, just gone. You both remain seated for a long time. You wonder how many names were lost before someone thought to keep them. The girl speaks first. You know you'll have to leave someday. You don't answer. She's right. This place, your village, your jar, your shelf of fragments, it has become a sanctuary. But sanctuaries are never meant to last. They're way stations, not destinations. I know, you say softly. Not now, she adds. But one day, when someone calls your name and needs it to mean something. That night, you make a new kind of shelf. Not wood, not stone. You gather smooth river rocks. Flat, oval, warm in the sun. You place them in a row near the back wall of your house. On each one, you begin carving. Not with tools, but with charcoal and fingertip. Names only. No stories. Let the stories be carried in the breath. You begin with Kapu, then Isiri, then Sherrod, then one from a dream. Nefrura, a girl with silver-threaded hair who laughed like wind chimes. You're not sure she existed, but you believe in her now. Before sleep, you sit with a scroll. You touch your name once, not to possess it, but to remind it. You're still here, but you're getting ready, not for death, but for journey. Because one day, your name will be the whisper that keeps someone else alive just a little longer, and you'll want to be listening when they speak. The heat returns with a quiet intensity. It doesn't roar or scorch or punish. It simply settles, like a weightless veil, woven from the breath of old gods and hung across the shoulders of the village. The air shimmers. Stones retain the sun's touch long into the night. Even the goats have given up their wanderings, choosing shade over mischief. And yet you walk. Your jar, sealed steady, is now tied to your satchel with strips of linen, nestled in a basket woven just for it. You don't cradle it anymore. You carry it, like one carries a message, or a name. You walk toward the western fields, not the far west, where the tombs rest like sleeping lions, but closer, the in-between place, where things begin becoming what they will one day be. Here, their stories told only by footprints and wind. And here, you find them. Children, 5 of them, sitting in a wide circle scratched into the dirt. In the center, figures made of mud and straw, half dried by the sun. Some have beads for eyes. One has a lid from a jar as a shield. Another wears a dried fig leaf as a cape. They look up when they see you, eyes wide, not afraid, not reverent, curious. You sit without asking. The oldest girl hands you a scrap of linen. It's your turn. You blink. My turn for what? We're building the world again. She says it like it's obvious. She points to the circle. These are the ones who didn't get into the field of reeds, she continues. Not because they were bad, just forgotten. They needed another chance. So we're giving them a new one. The others nod solemnly. One boy, covered in clay from ear to ankle, adjusts a twig in the hand of a particularly wonky figure. She's a sky watcher, he says. She tells time by clouds. Another girl adds, and this one can speak to beetles. You realize something as you listen. These aren't random games. These are acts of resurrection. Tiny, handmade myths. The children each take turns speaking the names they've given their figures. Some are musical. Some are nonsense. One is the name of a lost uncle whispered through giggles. All are sacred. They hand you a lump of mud. It's your turn. You pause. Then you shape a figure. You don't aim for perfection. You aim for truth. And truth, as always, is a little uneven. The arms are too long. The legs too short. But the eyes, 2 small dimples made with your pinky, know something. They've seen dreams. You name them Atina. A name that has lived somewhere inside you for years, waiting. She sings to lamps. You say, so they don't forget to glow. The children nod solemnly, as if this is the most natural explanation in the world. Later, as the sun begins to lower and the clay cools into firmness, you rise. The children remain behind, arranging the figures in concentric circles, speaking to them like midwives welcoming souls back into the world. You head toward the edge of the fields, where the wind carries the first hints of night. And there you find someone else waiting. It's the scribe. He sits under a palm tree, scrolls piled around him like sleeping dogs. "You've been busy," he says, not looking up. "So have you." He hands you a new scroll, shorter, narrower. You unroll it and find a name. Yours, followed by speaker of names, listener of silences, carrier of memory. You stare at the titles. "I didn't earn these." He shrugs. "You lived them." You roll the scroll again, hands a little unsteady. "I'm leaving," you say suddenly. He nods. "I know." "How?" "I watched you stop calling this place home." You sit. The wind tugs at your sleeves. He pulls out a small reed stylus and begins scribbling without asking permission. "What are you writing now?" "A name." "Whose?" He grins. "Yours." Again, in a different hand. So it's harder to forget. You leave him there as the sun dips into the sand. You walk home slowly, not because your body aches, but because you want the moment to stretch. You arrive at your house and find your sister mending a basket. She glances up. You're glowing. It's the dust. It's never just the dust with you. You sit beside her. You don't say it outright, but she knows. "You'll go west," she says. You nod. "Not today," you add. She hands you a fresh figure. "Good, because I need help with this goat first." You laugh. You eat. You light your lamp. And later that night, you open the jar, for the first time since sealing it. You don't remove anything. You just breathe into it, as if your breath, your now, is the offering. You close it again, gently. Then you kneel before your shelf and add one more stone. On it you write, Atina. She sings to lamps so they remember to glow. Then you whisper it, once, twice, until the flame beside you flickers. Not from wind, but from recognition, and all around you. The room is quiet, not empty, just listening. The following days unfold like a woven basket, tight, patterned, patient. You find yourself lingering, not because you've forgotten to leave, but because the act of leaving now feels like a ritual in itself. There's something you must complete first. Not a task, not a duty, something quieter, more internal, like a knot that's almost untied, but not quite. The village, too, seems to sense the shift. People greet you differently. They don't ask where you're going. They only touch your shoulder, or give you fruit you didn't ask for, or say things like, "The West is good trees," as if that were enough explanation. And perhaps it is. On one particularly windless morning, you sit at the river's edge again, where the waters run slow and shallow. Your jar rests beside you, its clay warm in the sun. You remove the lid, not to change anything, but to let the air touch it, to let it breathe. Across the river, a heron lands in silence. Its legs disturb nothing. It stares at you for what feels like hours. Then a voice behind you. She'll need a name. You turn. The girl is there again, arms crossed, an amulet dangling from her wrist. She's taller, not older, perhaps, but expanded, as if the wind now listens to her. You blink. Who? She holds up a tiny clay figure. It's a woman, roughly shaped, one hand outstretched, a hollow in her chest, where something once rested. She came to me in a dream, the girl says. Said she'd lost her name, because no one ever wrote it in joy, only in mourning. You understand this too well. You reach into your satchel and pull out a palm leaf. You flatten it on your knee. You write a name, not just for the figure, but for all the forgotten ones only remembered by the sorrow they left behind. Mehe, you write, and below it, she who now rises in celebration. The girl smiles. She sets the figure in the reeds, where it will dry in the sun, watching the water like a priestess of renewal. You watch it together. The moment stretches. Then she says, "You've begun to dream less of the do-it." You know it. Now I dream of things that haven't happened yet. She watches you. measuring something in your face, then says softly, "Your jar doesn't belong here anymore." You swallow. You know she's right. It has gathered names like seeds. But now those seeds are swelling, asking for ground to root in, for places beyond the fields you've always walked. You walk back through the village one more time, but not in farewell. Not yet. Today is for gifting. You carry your jar to the small house of the boy who lost his sister, Isiri. You knock once. He opens the door, looks at you, then at the jar. "No," you say gently. "Not to keep, just to hear." You sit together in the courtyard. You open the jar, and name by name, you whisper. Some he's heard, some he hasn't. When you reach his sister's name, he doesn't cry. He just leans against your arm. Then he whispers a name into the jar, one you've never heard, and you know he's just planted a new seed. Later, you visit the woman with the spoon, Bakay's daughter. She's baking again, and her house smells like almonds and burnt sugar. She serves you something round and sticky, and insists you eat all of it before you speak. Then she shows you something. It's a bowl, cracked in 3 places, bound with gold. "Thought it was broken," she says. "But I remembered what you said, about names. And I thought, if something has been held and remembered, it isn't broken. It's just waiting to hold again." You nod. You write Bakay again, this time on the rim of the bowl. She cries, but not out of sadness, out of return. At sunset, you climb the old Palm Hill, the highest point in the village, where priests once watched the stars for signs and farmers judged the flood. From here, you see it all. The bending river, the patchwork fields, the roofs of every home, and the distant ridge of tombs, glowing faintly gold in the dying light. You remove the jar from your satchel. You don't open it this time. You just hold it up toward the western sky. And in that moment, you feel every name inside shift. Not restlessly, eagerly, like passengers waiting for the call to board. That night, you return home, and your sister is already preparing for your departure. She's silent as she folds your cloak. She doesn't look at you, but she hands you a bag of dried dates and bread, and a clean strip of cloth for your head. Then she finally speaks. "I added one more name." You blink. She nods toward your shelf. You step over. There, on a smooth white stone, newly placed. Minehead, the one who stayed behind and kept the fire lit. You touch the stone gently. "She'll be remembered," you say. Your sister doesn't respond, but she hugs you, and for the first time in a long time, she holds on longer than you do. Before bed, you kneel before your shelf of figures and offerings. You light the lamp. You speak the names again. You speak your own last. And then, in a voice quiet but clear, "I'm almost ready." And you feel something move inside the jar. A breath, a nod, an answer. You wake in darkness. Not fear, not silence, just darkness. The kind that comes before intention, before movement, before even the thought of rising. It wraps you, holds you, lets you breathe for one last moment in the cocoon of what was before the first light of what comes cracks open. Today is the day you leave. But it doesn't begin with packing. It begins with listening. You lie still and listen to the breath of your sister sleeping, to the murmur of wind outside, to the small shift of your jar on the shelf, as if it too knows this is the last time it will rest here. You sit up slowly, your movements gentle, ceremonial, even. The cat is gone from your blanket, perhaps sensing the change. She's retreated to some hidden spot to contemplate the eternal feline mystery of being in all places at once. You fold your bedding. You place a final offering on the shelf, a dried flower, browned and curled at the edges. It was given to you by a child last month, a flower that once had a name, now lost, but not unloved. You place it beside the figure of Isiri, who still smiles up at the ceiling like she knows something no one else does. Then you prepare. You wrap the jar in layers of linen, careful, steady, not as protection against breakage, but as a gesture of honor, like you would wrap a newborn, or a story too sacred to speak aloud. The satchel is light. Just a few supplies: bread, dried beans, water in a goat bladder, the scroll of names gifted by the scribe, and a flint pendant carved by the girl with the figures. It's shaped like a flame. She said, "You'll need it when you forget why you started walking." You step outside just before dawn. The stars are still out, faded now, like old chalk. A breeze stirs. The trees shift like sleepers turning in their dreams. And one by one, people are waiting. Not many, just those who know. The baker, flour on his elbows, holding a warm loaf he doesn't offer, just presses into your hands. The old woman, Bakay's daughter, who nods and slips a piece of sweetened fig into your satchel without speaking. The boy who lost his sister stands with a tiny clay figure in his hand. "It's not a god," he says, "but it listens." He gives it to you. You hold it like it might whisper. You don't doubt that it will. Your sister is last. She wears your mother's shawl. She carries no gifts, no bundle, no wise words. Just this: come back when your name is heavy with more names than you can carry. You hug her. You both let go quickly. She turns back into the house before you can see her cry. You begin to walk, not toward the temples, not toward the tombs, toward the path west, the sacred direction, the place of setting suns and open gates. You pass the palm trees. You pass the field where the children once built their new world out of mud and magic. Only now, the figures are gone. In their place, fresh rows of planted beans and onions. Someone took what was imagined and fed it to the earth. You smile. You stop once at the base of the ridge, the one that rises beyond the village and spills into the open horizon, the place no one goes unless they mean it. You take out the jar. You hold it, and then, without fanfare, without chant, you speak the names. Not all, not even most, just a few, random ones, ones that come to your tongue unbidden, like old friends waving from distant rooftops. Nebaman, Sherit, Pasair, Isiri, Kapu, Mihe, Atina, Minehead. You speak them slowly. Let them float into the wind. You speak your own name last. It tastes different now. Not sharp, not soft, just settled. You step up the ridge, wind at your back. Your feet sink into the sand and rise again. With each step, you feel it. Names shifting inside the jar like seeds in a gourd. Not restless, ready. And at the crest of the hill, you pause. Below you, the world stretches open, flat, golden, endless, dotted with stones and scrub trees, with the shimmer of distant water and the hush of air too old to carry words. You breathe in and step forward, the jar at your side, the scroll in your satchel, the shelf of names behind you. No destination, just the journey, because somewhere, someone will forget a name, and somewhere, someone else will remember, and somewhere in between, you will be there, listening, gathering, carrying the breath that keeps memory alive, and planting, always planting, what might grow in the field of reeds, not just for the dead, but for all of us who still have names waiting to be spoken. The first days of the journey are quiet, not in the way of silence, but in the way of space. You walk through sound, not against it. The crunch of sand beneath your soles, the soft rustle of your linen sleeves, the creak of your satchel with each step, and always, always, the faint hum of names inside the jar. Not voices, not ghosts, just presence. They don't distract you. They anchor you. Every once in a while, you whisper one aloud. No reason, just to let them know you haven't forgotten. Just to remind yourself that forgetting is not the same as losing. The landscape shifts slowly. The palms thin out. The river curves away like a friend waving from the edge of a crowd. You follow a narrow path barely visible among rocks and scrub. The kind of path not laid down by intention, but by habit. Made by animals, travelers, winds, maybe even the dead. Midway through your third day, you reach a stone. Flat, upright, half-buried. It bears no markings, no carvings, but it hums. You pause, lay your hand against it, warm from the sun, and there, like a ripple through your fingertips, you feel a name. Not yours, not one you've carried, but one that is waiting. You sit beside the stone, unpack the scroll from your satchel, unroll it carefully. You place it on your lap, the ink names fluttering faintly in the breeze, like reeds caught between riverbanks. You reach for your stylus. You write, Esitep. The name comes without hesitation, and with it, the smallest burst of something behind your ribs, grief, joy, recognition. You don't know which. You add nothing else. No titles, no story, just the name. Then you open the jar, hold it to the stone, and speak Esitep aloud. Not once, 3 times. Like a spell. When you put the jar away, it feels a little heavier, not burdensome, full. You sleep beneath the stars that night, the kind that blinks slowly, like old friends pretending not to watch you. The moon curls low and heavy, and your dreams are not of boats or gates or funerary rites. You dream of a house, a small one, mud brick, with faded blue paint at the lintel. Inside, someone stirring a pot, someone sitting by a doorway, someone writing a name again and again into the dust of the floor. The next morning, you pass through a narrow ravine carved by wind and time. You hear singing. At first, you think it's just the wind sliding over the rocks, but it repeats, wavering, human. You follow the sound, and you find them. A caravan, travelers, traders, 2 camels, 3 donkeys, 6 people. A woman with sun-wrinkled eyes is singing to a bundle strapped to one of the camels. A baby. No, you step closer. A basket, carefully tied shut. She notices you. Don't look at me like that, she says. It's not a curse. You raise your hands. I wouldn't dare. She chuckles. It's my sister. She didn't want to be left behind. They invite you to sit. They give you dried figs and cool water from a clay jar, so old the handles are worn smooth. You talk. They ask about your jar. You tell them it holds names. They don't laugh. The singing woman, her name is Ranu, leans in. I knew a name once, she says, but I forgot it. Not on purpose. It just slipped. She looks pained. It belonged to someone kind. Someone who helped me cross a river once. I only remember the way she laughed. Like broken pottery rolling. You nod. That's enough, you say. You don't ask for more. That night, after the fire has died and the travelers have tucked themselves into their cloaks, you open the jar again. You whisper. Pottery laughter. You write no name for it, but the jar knows. The next morning, you and the caravan part ways. Rana presses something into your hand before you leave. It's not gold, not tools, not food. It's a bundle of broken potsherds, tied with twine. I saved them, she says, from the river where I crossed. Maybe they'll say the name before I can. You don't ask why she chose you. You just take them, and whisper thanks. You walk west again, now with a pouch of clay shards beside the scroll, beside the carved figures, beside the lamp wick you've saved since your first night away. Each step, the jar feels different. Not heavier, more settled, as if each name, once spoken, curls inward and builds a home. You pass through dry hills. You pass beneath birds who trace lazy spirals overhead. You pass a child sitting alone beneath a date palm. He's drawing spirals in the dust with a stick. He sees you, smiles, says nothing, but as you pass, he presses a date into your palm. You dropped this, he says. You didn't. You nod anyway. You eat it. Sweet, a little bitter. You taste time in it, and somewhere inside, another name forms. And somewhere ahead, the road unspools toward an ending. But not yet. Not just yet. You walk. You carry. You remember. And the jar hums like a heart that knows it is being listened to. The path westward changes again. It no longer rolls through dusty hills or cracks between red stone cliffs. Now, it stretches into low, open land, where the sand grows fine as flour, and the sun rests heavily on your shoulders like a teacher who insists you still have something left to learn. The wind here moves slower, as if it's thinking. You're not far from the edge now. Not the edge of the world, no. Just the edge of what was, the familiar rhythms, the patterns you once mistook for permanence. Every few hours, you turn your head, expecting to see the village on the horizon, but it's gone. Or maybe it never was there, only in you. You keep walking, and then, just as the heat reaches its loudest silence, you see it. A single squat building, made of stone so pale it almost blends with the sand. It's not a tomb, though it looks old enough to be one. No markers, no flags, no guards, just a doorway so dark it could be mistaken for a shadow that forgot how to leave. You approach. You knock, because you're polite, even to stone. The door opens. Not wide, not quickly, just enough. Inside stands an old man. No beard, no staff, no ornaments. Just a faded sash tied around his waist and eyes that blink slowly, like he's reading a dream written in your face. He gestures once and disappears into the cool shade. You follow. Inside, it's quiet, but not empty. Shelves line the walls, endless, layered, rising to a ceiling lost in shadows. And on each shelf, jars. Hundreds, thousands, all sealed, all labeled, some with names, some with nothing but symbols, some covered in cloth as if still asleep. You realize where you are. The house of remembering. You've heard stories, whispered late at night in the village, mostly by old women with worn teeth and sharp memory. A place where names go to rest when the world forgets them, but some still wish to be found. You walk slowly. Each jar hums differently. Some with longing, some with relief, some with joy so soft it tickles your palm when you pass. The old man reappears, now carrying a feather. Not just any feather. A single, long, white one, immaculate, unbent. You know its meaning at once. Ma'at, the feather of truth, of balance, of the judgment scale. He says nothing, just points at your satchel. You understand. You remove your jar. You've carried it for what feels like lifetimes. You unwrap it slowly, gently, like a child saying goodbye to their favorite story. You hand it to him. He does not weigh it. He listens. He places his ear to the lid, closes his eyes, and listens. Minutes pass. A small breeze stirs from nowhere. Then he nods, satisfied, not because the jar passed a test, but because it knew its weight. He carries it to a shelf. Not the highest, not the lowest, midway, a place of transition. And as he slides it into place, your heart does not break. It settles. The shelf accepts it with the same care you gave it for so long. Then the old man hands you something new. A small scroll, tied with a cord made from date palm fibers. You unroll it. It's blank. You look at him. He smiles, barely. It's for the names you haven't heard yet. You step outside again. The light has changed. The sun hangs low, wide, swollen, bleeding gold into the horizon like a story, trying not to end too fast. You breathe in the desert. It smells of dust and memory and something sweet, like figs left in the sun too long. You walk down the slope behind the house. There's no path now, just open sand, and a single tree, a sycamore, ancient, bending toward the west, its branches thick with green, like a hand outstretched in offering. You sit beneath it. You lay out your new scroll. You take out your stylus. You wait, and the names begin to come. Slowly, like rain at first. A woman who tended to ants instead of children. A boy who carved boats out of dried dung and sent them down the ditches. A dog that waited 5 winters for someone who never returned. You write them all. You write until your wrist aches and your eyes blur and your heart feels like it's holding back tears you never meant to have. Each name lands softly on the scroll, and with each one, you feel the roots of the sycamore pulse. As if it, too, remembers. When night falls, you light the small oil lamp, the one from the village, still half full. Its flame dances in the breeze, like a reed in the river current. And you whisper, "You're not forgotten." Not to the names, not to yourself, not to whatever might be watching from the stars above. And beneath that quiet tree, scroll in hand, you fall asleep, with your back against a root older than time, with a jar behind you, finally resting where it belongs, and a whole new library of names waiting to be found. Morning arrives without warning. No blaring light, no fanfare, just a soft shift in the air, like someone exhaling beside you after a long-held breath. You open your eyes beneath the sycamore and for a moment forget where you are. Then you remember, not as a jolt, but as a warmth, like embers coming back to life. You rise slowly, joints humming with that low, Ancient music of sleep ending and purpose beginning. The scroll lies beside you. Not blank anymore. Its surface is now covered in names, some slanted, some cramped, some written when your hand was shaking, but all real. You roll it carefully and tuck it away. The tree offers shade and comfort, but something in your chest tells you, this is not the place to stay. You are not done. You are never done. Not as long as names are still being forgotten. So you walk again, but not west, not east. You walk in a direction that doesn't exist on any map, toward wherever the next forgotten name waits. Not on a stone, not on a scroll, but in a heartbeat, in a whisper, in a story paused mid-sentence, waiting for someone to say, "Tell me more." You pass through low brush, the smell of crushed time, and dry resin trailing behind you. You spot vultures circling overhead, slow and wide. They are not omens. They are cleaners of stories, too. They know what it means to make peace with the past. By midday, you reach a dry wadi where broken stones scatter like lost syllables. There, you find a cracked vessel, half buried, half spilled. Sand pours from its mouth like a secret that couldn't hold its tongue. You kneel beside it, and just like that, without knowing why, you whisper, "Neshra." You don't know who she was, but the vessel stills. The wind pauses, and you know, she was waiting. You mark her name at the top of your next scroll. The new scroll, the one the old man gave you, tied with date palm fiber, still half empty. It won't stay that way for long. You journey on. Some days you meet others. A boy weaving mats who speaks the names of insects before stepping around them. A woman tending graves with a tune on her lips and ash beneath her nails. An old man who says he once kissed a woman named Taja, so hard her name passed into his blood. You write them all. You carry them. You gift names to rocks, to dry wells, to animals with eyes too wise for their silence. You name the wind when it turns warm. You name the cold at night when it curls under your blanket like a forgotten pet. You never stop, even when your sandals break, even when your hair begins to gray, even when your hands tremble too much to carve, and you begin reciting names aloud instead, hoping the air itself will remember. You become something strange and beautiful, a traveler, a speaker, a shelf. People begin to recognize you, not your face, but your presence. They say, "The one with names is here." And they come to you, not for healing, not for prophecy, not even for wisdom. They come to be remembered. You sit with them. You listen. You write. And when their stories are done, you press your palm to theirs and say, "Now you won't be lost." And they believe you, because you mean it. Years pass. You don't count them. What's time, really, to someone who measures the world in remembrance? And one day, without fanfare, you stop. You sit beneath a tree. Not the same sycamore, but like it. Its roots are young, but they've already learned to hold the earth. You light your lamp. Still the same one. Still burning. And you unroll your scroll. You read every name aloud, one by one, until the sky turns orange, and the air grows still, and the world leans in to listen. You speak them all. And when you finish, you close your eyes, not in sleep, but in peace, because you know, somewhere out there, someone else has begun their walk. Someone else carries a jar, and a scroll, and a name they're not ready to forget. You have become the whisper they follow, the hush they trust, and as the sun sets behind your shoulder, you rest your hand on the earth and say, one last time, you are not forgotten. Now breathe, slowly. Let your shoulders ease back. Let the world quiet around you. Feel the ground beneath you, solid and sure, like memory turned to stone. You've walked far tonight, not in steps, but in presence, through villages lost to time, across sand that never ends, past gates and trees and jars and stories. You've remembered. You've witnessed. You've carried things long forgotten into the light again. That's no small thing. Names are not just words. They are echoes. They are doors. They are what lets us outlive ourselves, even when the body has stopped. So if, tonight, you find yourself holding something heavy, an old name, a forgotten story, a silence no one else hears, know this. You are part of the shelf now. the library, the long line of quiet listeners who kept the world from vanishing piece by piece. You are not alone. Somewhere, in wind or earth or water or dream, someone is writing your name too. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Now close your eyes. Let the scroll rest. Let the jar settle. Let the lamp burn soft and steady. And drift, not away, but deeper into yourself, where the names live. And the remembering never ends,